Welcome on in, everybody. How are you all doing? Welcome on into the Apex Legends Global Series Challenger number 2 finals. We got 6 games today where our 20 teams will be battling it out for a seed in the Pro League finals. Not finals, but quarter qualifying plays. There's so many words I have to deal with Apex here. Okay, I'm doing my best, all right? Here we go. I'm Dandro, joined by, of course, Dia and Twiggy. Boys, it's good to have you. Dia, you are on an absolute roll today. This is, I believe, your 3rd series of Apex casting, the absolute GOAT. How you doing?
I mean, I can't get enough. Days like this energize me. We've got so much Apex around. I am eager to dive into all of it, especially because we've gone all the way from the European Challenger Circuit number 2 this morning, and now getting to directly contrast that with the playstyles from North America.
Yeah, I think I was watching a little bit this morning, and it is just electric across the world here today. Twiggy, glad to have you on board. How you feeling about today?
I'm feeling really excited. I was watching last week, and I'm very, look, I've seen some Apex in my time, and that was certainly some of the Apex of all time. So I'm very much excited to see how today compares.
I like that. I like that. Well, obviously, because I butchered it in the open, Dio, why don't you explain to everybody what some of these teams are kind of battling for today? Because it's a little bit of a tricky system, but it's really important. Today's matches are actually have a huge importance to them when it comes to kind of the grand overall scheme of ALGS.
Yes, they are. I mean, Challenger Circuit is difficult to get a handle on, but we'll try and break it down in the simplest way possible. There are 4 Challenger Circuits throughout the year. Or rather, throughout the split. And the first place team from each of those automatically gets seeded into the Pro League qualifier. They will be joined by, at the end of these 4 Challenger Circuits, the top 18 teams in terms of points from those 4. Those squads will then go up against, yeah, you're getting it, the bottom 8 teams from Pro League, and together they compete in the Pro League qualifier, from which we'll be sending 8 teams forward to be in Pro League.
Thank you for using your hands for that demonstration. It actually really helped. We have 20 teams competing here today. Let's go take a look at some of those rosters and some of the teams that are coming on in competing today. Twiggy, who's jumping out for you when we kind of look at some of these teams? Who do you think is going to make some waves?
I mean, look, everybody wants me to say Blackhand, so I'm going to say Blackhand, obviously. Blackhand, we've seen them all throughout. They're always up at the top somewhere. It's a lot of the times it's been very, incredibly close for them in getting like just 2nd place every single time. So hopefully Blackhand, they've got one of the big ones out of the way. Let's go to the line today.
Awesome. And well, D, I know we kind of before the broadcast, you had a couple of teams that you wanted to highlight. I'm sure we'll kind of be talking about more as the night goes on, but give me a little flavoring. Give me the appetizer menu of who you think will be maybe top of the leaderboards at the end of the night.
I'll tell you what, I'll do it this way. I'll start off with my pick from Group 1, and that's going to be straight up Riz and Rose. I'm not messing around. Blackhand, yes, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on them, but Riz and Rose actually really impressed me during the preseason qualifiers, and given the fact that they qualified into the finals last week, I don't think we got to see their full potential in this lobby. I think they're a frag-heavy team that we can look forward to. On the other side, we're going to get the chance to see, I guess, their semifinals points, so that'll actually highlight my point really well. 66 points, 42 of those are kills. So just under 2/3 of their points, by a sliver, is kills, which I think serves to further highlight how much I'm expecting this squad to thrive if we are opting for kill-heavy games.
I like that. Yeah, you can see here a couple more of those teams that are coming on through. Bad Boys, Stormtroopers. That's one that we kind of wanted to highlight a little bit. Dia, just very quickly before I throw it back over to Twiggy, kind of give me the lowdown on Stormtroopers.
Yeah, Stormtroopers, I think it's important to note before we jump in, that is not their roster. Stormtroopers, Vize, Sosei, and Prophet. And those 3 wowed me and honestly a lot of other folks with their, again, performance last week as a hard zone team, in total contrast to the rest of the lobby, where normally Challenger Circuit is full of people running at each other. Stormtroopers ignored everyone else, played for the zone, and won a lot of games.
Well, we have our teams. Let's talk about the macro. Let's talk about the strategy that some of these teams are going to have to use in order to score the points that they're trying to nab here today. Twiggy, as we kind of get ready to drop into map number 1, I mean, when you're trying to grab some of these points that are going to carry over you. What are you going to kind of have in the back of your mind that you're going to be trying to execute on?
Well, I think Dia put it really nicely that Stormtroopers seem to like to play a very different game to everyone else and just playing for zone and ignoring everyone else. That's what I like to see, is I like to see a team that is really just looking to secure points, not just go in, win fights. You know, we don't have any shield batteries, but we're just going to run at a team and see what happens, because that ends up in you know, going low down on placements half the time. Sometimes you get up into the top 3, lovely, you get a lot of points. But I like to see a team that plays really safely, tries to get into the top 5 squads at the very least, and then engages and then goes for fights and just tries to pick off the stragglers from teams.
Yeah, I definitely have noticed that kind of when I've been watching Apex over the last couple of weeks, is that you have these squads, they love to rat up. They love to kind of really try and focus on those placement points before engaging for that KP. But it's obvious kind of going with Dia's stat line. There's some squads in here who they're ready to fry out, and they are not afraid to fly at some of these squads, maybe get some early KP and set themselves up for success when it kind of comes to those placement points that they are going to be looking for. And well, one way they're going to do that, well, let's talk a little bit more about, you know, kind of strategy, maybe legend composition. I know we were kind of talking earlier before our producer told us, hey, in the semifinals, we saw a ton of just Seer, Horizon, and Valkyrie. And well, if you're anyone who watched competitive Apex in the last 6 months, that probably shouldn't be a surprise to you. But Dia, break it down for me. What makes these legends so powerful and so strong that it makes them a must pick on these comps?
Specifically in the Challenger circuit, it has to do with the format of the tournament. We're going through multiple days of games for these squads, and to reach the final lobby, which is totally different from everything else, they have to be able to frag out harder than other squads that will otherwise shut them down. That team composition really excels at getting 2 fights and then dominating them. It's what makes really Horizon and Seer shine, and Valkyrie mostly about just chauffeuring you from place to place.
And Twiggy, I mean, on the flip side of that, let's talk about maybe some legends that we might be a little bit surprised to see. Anybody you think might be kind of popping on through that, you know, maybe the viewers are a little bit surprised to see teams running, but there's a very valid reason for?
I mean, look, here's the thing. I'm very biased towards Catalyst myself. I'm a Catalyst main. I love a bit of Catalyst. I love her. She's incredibly useful in many ways. She's all round. She has the wall. She has the carpets. Not actually called carpets. That's just what I call them, obviously. So there's a lot of different utility that Catalyst can bring to a squad. And if you really feel comfortable on Catalyst, I feel like it could be a good addition. But you know, we got to tip off that maybe there might be some Catalyst, but I don't think it's going to be that likely we see her too much.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be sort of 1 or 2 maybe across the 6 maps. I kind of what I've been seeing is people will maybe run it for a map, kind of struggle with it, maybe not find the success that they were looking for, and then swap back to something that maybe the squad is a little bit more comfortable on. But I can only imagine kind of as time goes on. I was reading a really good thread earlier today on like how to actually play Catalyst and sort of some of the boons that you get from running a legend like that, especially kind of, you know, when you pair it up with maybe this new comp that's sort of emerging with the Bloodhound and Bangalore. That's kind of this pairing that we've seen kind of start creeping in. More and more teams are starting to pick it up, and Dia, there's a very strong reason for it. Why are we seeing more Bloodhound Bangalore?
I mean, Blood Bang is sort of a symptom of the way that these two styles are starting to diverge a little bit. The hard zone composition versus the edge comp. Blood Bang is just, well, it's unfair. We've all been run at by smoke into Bloodhound scan, and that is oppressive. But one of the other big reasons for it, of course, is its interaction with controllers and the way that Bangalore smokes, especially enemy Bangalore smokes, affect controller players at close range, which is where they're most dangerous. A lot of teams have been favoring, especially in the face of controller beams, again, in Challenger Circuit being so important, shutting that down early on by just putting smoke on them.
Yeah, I think that's so funny, right? That when we kind of talk about that smoke kind of having that interaction, and we've kind of heard the debate. It's tale as old as time. We don't got to talk about it here of that controller versus mouse and keyboard. And I know in the Apex scene, those roller players, they love grabbing that car SMG. They love grabbing that R99 and just absolutely full sending you, right? So I love that we're kind of seeing maybe a little bit of metagame come action and be like, all right, if that's what we're going to have to go up against, this is what we're going to have to kind of run. So I love that the kind of scene in meta is evolving more and more and more. We have 6 games that we're playing here, boys. We got 3 on Stormpoint, 3 on World's Edge. Let's talk a little bit about Stormpoint, this first map series. Twiggy, when it kind of comes to Stormpoint, what maybe can we expect from some of these squads?
I mean, again, this is the kind of place where Valkyrie is going to be a massive, massive help in your team. Is just getting around a lot of the place because you've got a lot of cover to work with. You've got a lot of places to go, and that's really useful. There's a lot of POIs that you can really fortify quite well, and that is where Valkyrie comes in quite nicely. If you can get there before another team, you can start a rotation real quick. You can just kind of fortify that off and just kind of hold off. Like everybody wants to be able to hold off players coming in from the storm, and when you can do that, that is perfect.
Theo, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I was actually going to talk a little bit on the Valkyrie because of exactly my ability to Uno reverse card some squads. As so many teams have started opting for this, and it's an interesting trade-off to watch because not all the time, even very infrequently, but Valkyrie can save your game where no other legend can. If you find yourself in a position where you go, you know what, I just don't know how to rotate through this, Valkyrie can do that, even if in all the other scenarios she just doesn't do as much as, say, a Bloodhound, a Seer, a Horizon. That is the key case where people are picking Valkyrie, and it's that get-out-of-jail-free card that people are valuing over the consistency that other legends bring.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been telling people. You know, I had a couple friends who I was talking with kind of while I was home for the holidays and that Thanksgiving break. And we were talking about Apex, and they said like, oh, you know, I've been seeing a lot of people in my ranked games playing Valk. Dan, you're kind of, you know, you watch Apex at a high level. Why is that? And I was like, well, it's that get out of jail free card. And that's basically it. You know, you kind of force it kind of lessens the need to really focus on these hardcore rotations and making the right call and making the right play. Because when you have that skyward dive to your availability, it just allows you to get wherever you need to go. Or if you know there's a team and you think that you can fly down right on them and just completely wipe them out, take their power position over, that's a really strong move. And that's something we're seeing more and more teams kind of value as well. You get that information while you're flying. You're able to kind of go wherever you want. I'm not surprised to see that it's such a strong legend here. We're going to be dropping in to the first lobby here very soon. It did get restarted. Technical difficulties, they happen. It's okay. We're here. I couldn't be more happy to be along board with these two guys. Now, when we kind of continuing the talk of the map, right? Some of these teams, when we look at the scores kind of from semifinals and some of the other weeks, some teams really struggle on Storm Point, but they kind of light it up on World's Edge and vice versa. What is, we'll talk more in depth about it when we get the swap going off, but why do you think that is, Twiggy? Why do some teams just find so much success on one map and yet somehow struggle on the next?
I think a large part of it is just how people, like, a lot of team comps, you'll practice a lot or you'll play a lot on a certain map, you'll get really good at something, or you'll learn how to play around certain POIs and certain drops that you land on a lot of the time straight from drops. And then you'll kind of just lead into that a lot. It's this kind of psychology thing where, we do really well on this map. And then they just kind of focus into more towards the strats that they like to employ on that map. And then suddenly it kind of slips away other maps from you. It's just like, oh wait, hold on, we haven't really figured out a solid strategy that's worked for us on this second map. So sometimes that is just the way it works.
Yeah, I definitely do feel that. I think, some teams I've seen in multiple tournaments where exactly that happens. They, they're not really looking good. And the next thing you know, they're coming through after 3 games. They're just being absolutely electric. And let's kind of get down into the nitty gritty. One of these, a couple of these teams, they have that sort of tendency where they really favor one map over the other. If you're kind of maybe looking at this team list, who are those teams that you're expecting to perform maybe really well on this first map set?
All right, we're starting off on Storm Point, so I'm going to have to go with TSS. They've got Blur, Messiah, and Hambino. And in the same way as we'll look at a lot of teams and say, yeah, they're going to frag out, TSS do really embody that we're just going to pick up turrets and run at you sort of play style. And that's something that succeeds especially well on Storm Point. Well, we may not see a TSS in endgames because of that same sort of throw everything at the wall style. The thing is that being able to literally just run at somebody is easiest to do on Storm Point because the buildings don't provide as much safety as they do on World's Edge. Constantly being in motion, looking for that next kill is what squads get rewarded for when we're playing on Storm Point, and that's something that I expect TSS to do sort of naturally.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think kind of talking more and more about this difference in play styles has me more excited to kind of see this, right? Because, I love the teams that just kind of full throw themselves, because kind of let's harken back to maybe year one, right? Where we were seeing end game zones with like 14 teams in it somehow on Kings Canyon. And we're just like, I didn't even realize there's this much space and real estate that you can kind of hold open, right? But teams are making it happen. It seems like now, though, things have shaken out a little bit. We get these end game zones where, there's more and more teams, but it seems like it's kind of, we're having those more aggressive teams. I don't know, Twiggy, what are your kind of thoughts on that, of sort of how the play style has evolved year over year, especially as we're kind of here in the Challenger circuit and seeing this mashup of these two play styles?
You make a really good point there. Yeah, you're right. I didn't really think about it that way, but I think as it's kind of gone on, I think a lot of the time now mid game is really, really, like, people like to stay away from each other at the start a lot of the time. Like the pack generally gets thinned out way before the end of the game, but also, I think it's generally towards, about 10 minutes in or so, you're going to start to see a lot more frags come through, and then suddenly, as people are pushed in towards the first zones is where they're going to notice people, at the sight of their vision and go like, hey, let's get in a fight. I feel like a fight right now, we've gone 10 minutes without a fight. I think we can definitely, I want to kill some people, basically. Like, the bloodlust comes through.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I feel like so many teams maybe might fall into that trap where they're just like, all right, we need KP. We're trying to be able to get there. We're trying to get the placement points that we need, but it's A-okay. But while we're getting ready for this first lobby, we are going to throw to a small break, but don't go anywhere. So we come back, we're going to be dropping in to map number 1 here as part of the Apex Legends Global Series Challenger number 2 finals.
We're going to see everybody. Lovely history.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, especially after that pre-game chat, how these teams end up playing this out, especially because immediately after we went to break, I was scrolling through my teams list and I was like, you know what? I should have thrown a few other teams in the mix for doing really well on Stormpoint as well, because even though they are making their first appearance in the Challenger circuit, they didn't make the finals last week. We've also got Buff, Pathfinder, and Shoreline Mafia in here, and actually, looking up towards Lightning Rod, TSS are running the risk of going out early since they're already in a 50-50.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, the fight has started. I can see some damage being done already up there, but the player's still dropping towards the south. So we'll keep watching while we wait for these teams. But yeah, a lot of teams towards the north are actually starting to engage with. Yeah.
All ready to push out, and we've got a really nice spread for TNS, who have managed to take the majority of this loot. Smokes down as well. We talked about the importance of those earlier on. Control for them. The shields may not be going in TSS's favor, but the experience and the positioning are clearly paying off for them. Around the inside, Messiah gets that nice early beam, and now maybe the chance to finish things off as Blur comes around the corner as well. Curiosity answers right back, though. It's traded out as Eva comes out at short range, taking down Blur Flavors, and TSS, they go out now! They go out in burst! My curse goes to them!
Oh, why would you say it, dear? Why did you say it? Oh, no. That could not have been. Honestly, that was... After what you said, I was like, it's going to be, TSS. I'm really looking forward to seeing them get in a fight now. That was one of the most one-sided fights I've seen in a while. That was absolutely insane. Echo's boys also... Oh, okay, I was going to say, they're getting involved with the team. They're not. They're farming. They're farming a bit of loot. That's all.
MC Armory early on. I mean, it is pretty crowded up towards the northern edge. We saw teams not just at Wall and North Pad, but literally Echo's boys decided to land right in the middle. So one of those teams would normally take this, and now neither of them are going to get it. Both potentially attracted by the noise that this is going to be making. Well, I'm not too concerned for Echo's boys and their escape. The fact is, there's a lot of crowding towards the north side of the map that's going to limit the loot for teams that are coming from that area.
Mm-hmm. It is a nice ring for everybody in the middle of the map. It's actually quite, sometimes it's, I know it's technically more likely that the ring will be in the center of the map. It still always surprises me when the ring isn't anywhere in the center of the map. It always seems to land on the edges. In every game I watch, in every game I play.
Yeah, and honestly, the ones that pull towards the center, you got to be even more careful about those because it's, it's going to pull crazy towards the end. Dorkaholics, the last we checked in with them, took out TSS. They've actually been pushed out of their POI by a delayed third party from No Name. I think they're slightly out of range of being able to get this banner using the crypto, and pushing up with the gravity cannon so nearby would be risky. It looks like they may be giving this up, just playing it out as a two-person squad, given that they've already got the 3 points. Any placements they get will be a boon, and honestly, a relatively good placement for their first appearance in the Challenger circuit.
Yeah, you do have that option when you get early kills in the game that, we've got a little bit of a head start over every other team. We can now kind of play placement points, and we don't have to worry too much about getting a good amount of points. Obviously, you want a certain amount from each game. You don't need too many. At the same time, you do obviously want to get ahead of everybody else. Winning these finals is so much of it. You don't have to play anymore. You just there's no worry whatsoever. Okay, 18 teams. That's about the top third, right? You need to get into the top third if you're going to try and get through on points. Just winning, all done. Don't need to worry.
Yeah. That's it. So much already just cleared out of your head. Now, Stormtroopers, one of the teams that we highlighted earlier, are trying to sort of assuage their own worries by moving up in a very similar way that we've seen them play things out before. Picking a spot that nobody else is going to want, that they can make work because they have Watts in Newcastle, and watching the game unfold below them. Ranch on Spaghetti, already with multiple squads in the area, is going to be one of the teams that Stormtroopers to look down on, but also might have I want to say God spot, that's a little too early, a really good position in zones 3 and 4. I don't suspect we pull here for the end game, but close to that, Ranch on Spaghetti with snipers as well have the opportunity to farm it up.
That's some really good recon as well. They're just making sure that there's no need to push anywhere. They've got, as you said, maybe not a God spot, but for now, this is a very, very nice location to be in, and nobody is really going to be able to contest too readily. Unless somehow 2 squads Valk in on them, on their heads. I don't think they have too much to worry about at the moment. They've got pretty decent loot as well. Obviously, sometimes you just have to play mid-game with Blue Evo and just grind it out. But it's quite nice for them.
Yeah, it'll be important for them to demonstrate presence over in Swamps. There are a lot of teams that will be looking for the Valkolts that you talked about. As we take a look at the map, we get some crucial information revealed to us as well. No beacon at Stormcatcher, but No Name will be able to catch one as they move in. Otherwise, Antenna and Launchpad will be given that data to squads in the area, especially anyone running Crypto. We've also got a team moving up from this southern side in Jurassic Park that will be able to hit that if they stick around. It doesn't look like they want to. The crucial point here being that being able to grab these beacons as you do get closer to the end of the game is going to be really important when we consider how these teams hold on to territory later. Because say you're at Launchpad, you get that scan, you find out that we're going over towards Jurassic Park, your Valkolt there is going to mean a whole lot more if it's early rather than once everybody knows that it's going there.
Mm-hmm. You know what Dandro was saying about how, you know, it's so weird that we don't see, you know, final zones with like 17 squads in them. I feel like this might be one of those games somehow. Things are not happening so much. You know, there's people getting in fights. Everybody's disengaging very quickly.
Yeah, you want to hope so, right? Challenger Circuit, for as much as it's difficult to make it happen with everyone fighting through these high-fragging lobbies to get here, wants to mirror the Pro League. And in Pro League, it's important to be able to hold your cards close to your chest and play things out until the later game. Godly Daddies on this low ground, doing much the same, blocking off the doors, making sure that no one's moving on them on the approach, because the longer you survive, the better your spot, the more placement points you're going to get, the better off you're going to be in the long run.
Yeah, Runshot Spaghetti still going to be very happy with this zone. In fact, it's going to push a lot of people directly towards them there from the south. So that's quite a nice position to be in. Still, it's getting closer to what I would call a god spot now. If that zone still, you know, tends towards the south there, that'd be quite nice. Oh, LTC Esports are going to start a fight, though, and there's not much shield on the team that they're fighting. There's not much they can do whatsoever. Cabbage was eliminated in record time as well, but LTC Esports are going to be hard-pressed to stay alive in this next third party.
Yeah, and that's the crucial thing that you talked about. The speed with which this squad was eliminated keeps LTC safe, because otherwise they're absolutely being taken down by, say, Ranch on Spaghetti, who positioned themselves here for just this purpose. I want to take a moment and address the composition of Ranch on Spaghetti as well, because this may be important later on. They are, while we were talking about them receiving Valkolts, running a Valk of their own, and as we take a look at the zone, that could very well pull us even further up to the north. Being able to use their Valkolt from Ultimate Height could avoid this conundrum of mass exodus that'll happen from Swamps. Shoreline Mafia getting aggressive, though, and this, I don't want to caster curse them, but should be another frag squad.
Yeah, out goes that Horizon ult. It's going to pull one in. It's a pretty clean fight so far. Dropping down to the second level. Only one member is down on the ground. Curse is just going to walk in and try and get that res before anything else. But yeah, I mean, that's... Again, fight over in about 2 seconds. Cool.
Taking out TBA. This is exactly why we had hyped up Shoreline Mafia, or rather, why I was excited about Shoreline Mafia coming into today. This is Stunny and Zednim, who were on Wingman season, the squad that terrorized Challenger Circuit just last year. Stunny, by the way, great guy. I have to say that because he gave me a ride. He gave me a ride in his car, and so every time, I'm just going to call him out. Great guy. Amazing person. Also, Shoreline Mafia, great team. And we have that to look forward to as I continue my completely unbiased casting.
Yeah, that's a tip to any players. You want Deer to talk nicely about you? Give him a ride. Actually, no, you're going to have to one-up it now. It's not just a ride in your car. It's going to have to either be a nicer car, or you're going to have to get him something else as well.
I'm for sale, evidently. Now, as they're going to be rotating in, I will say Shoreline Mafia are going to face their fair share of problems because of actually exactly what we're seeing right now. Very few squads up on the high ground, but those teams getting their positioning rewarded. There is a lot of open ground just off to the south of Stormcatcher, but it's open ground that the zone is pulling directly into. I'll cast our minds back to Stormtroopers, who set up just off to the south of this POI maybe 5-6 minutes ago, who already have the Newcastle Watson gens down, and who are ready to absorb, say, Echo's boys, who popping down may just be caught unawares by the fact that Stormtroopers are already there.
Yeah. No Name up here is just kind of holding down the area, obviously with the high ground already. A nice thing to have. Where do you think they are? Where does No Name think they are? I wonder.
Yeah.
There.
Oh. Not interrupted at that point, but it was close. It was pretty darn close. No Name getting value out of this Valk ult as well. It is one of the things that I really like about Valkyrie, especially on Stormpoint, is how good it is to Valk ult from high ground, how much more distance you get. The position that they've chosen is very risky, however, and yes, they've got Watson, no additional Newcastle, no Gibraltar if they get pushed, and this is a play for KP, if anything. Will we get to tune in with Stormtroopers?
There they go, once again. This is a team that we really, really thought was going to do quite well here, and now they have 2 on the ground, and Vengeance, they're coming in for the kill. Oh, Stormtroopers are not going to get anything. What are you doing? What, dear?
I know.
Every time, why?
I'm brutalizing these teams.
Sing the praise of the team. I'm now worried about Shoreline Mafia. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, you should be. You should. Yeah, I'm coming for them. I mean, the very fact that they were knocked out here, though, is, I'm going to say, confusing. Impressive, first of all, because taking out Stormtroopers, I'm going to say, comes with, a fair bit of respect. But also indicative of this zone. No Name are already, again, positioned aggressively, but in the center of it. And it was Stormtroopers who were just around the edge. They made the mistake of not clearing out their X, but I will say that's also why this is Challenger Circuit, and teams are constantly learning from their mistakes. Risen Rose even making the mistake right there, focusing the Seer ult and getting beamed in the face. Plugged Cube, much the worse off for health right now, and an interesting diversion laid down by TrevStacks has everybody looking at that side of the map, giving Flux the opportunity to peel for his teammate. Plugged Cube healing up, but ultimately TrevStacks going down.
Rose doing well to fend off the attackers here, coming around the corner quickly, going to have to land those shots, but in comes some support. Risen Rose, will they stay alive for much longer? It's just PlugCube trying to stay alive now. That's not going to be for very long, and Bad Boys are going to try and compound all of those kills that they've gotten on the team who is moving in just to try and get a little bit more from that one. Looks like they'll get away, but Bad Boys will be quite happy with how they played that one. I think that was honestly perfect. The Horizon coming around from the side, it was a perfect timing to reveal. Wasted the ability, made sure that Horizon wasn't going to pop over that wall, and also backed that player off, meant that the team was split apart.
And the fact that Bad Boys were able to win this fight on the height is really good for them, as they'll have access to the rocks coming down the hill. No Name, a big threat to them, but a squad that will also likely have their attention split. Buff Pathfinder, perhaps getting split up right now, as Dracos has fallen. Bursty's looking low as well, and running the Ash doesn't have a whole lot of ways to escape. Nice beam from On.
That's a good way to start things off if you want to protect Dracos here. But it's going to be difficult to get that res up for sure. Shadowman's Prime also with 1 member down, just trying to fend off more attackers here. And we're getting into that stage of the game where it is going to get scrappy. It is going to start to be kills left, right, and center. It's going to be difficult to keep up with them, but to start off with Shoreline Mafia, so far, fending off Dia's bad luck.
Yes, making a third party out of it,
Yeah,
if they're not going to be taking 3v3s, they can absolutely find success here. And Shoreline Mafia walking in with the zone. Do watch another squad expire in front of them. Still full HP for now, and Zednim is not going to cow at yet another beam. Stunny takes a second to reset, but that's why there's 3 of them, and only 1 member on the opposing side. Maybe 5 HP.
Yeah, I don't think staying alive for very long there. Buff Pathfinder not going to be able to fend off Shoreline Mafia for too long. Asurus also getting eliminated. You see there on the kill board, but we are now heading towards our final stage of the game, round 4. As teams are falling left, right, and center. It is a lot of teams that entered this final stage, but I think it's definitely down to manageable numbers at this point. It's Godly Daddies. I'm going to start with a couple beams here. Not got a lot of armor to work with, but they're just going to run in and try and beam down these players. There's nothing you can do for Venom Gaming there, because you've got 3 members of Godly Daddy spraying you down.
I really knew exactly what was happening, as we've got that crowding that we were talking about earlier. No Name's position was risky, and now they are right next to Team Diverge. one of the squads running Bangalore and actually making great use of the smoke so far. But with Sleepy Panda low, Team Diverge could be in trouble.
Got to back away from the position, and that's a really, really good start there. Oh, so close trying to get away there. Black Hand,
oh my god!
Just about staying alive. What a beam from Save Griffin, but no, it's not to be. Third-partied in the end. Team Diverge stay alive with one member. Oh, we'll be able to get one res, hopefully? I don't know if, it can... There we go, okay. All good, just about. That Bangalore smoke coming in very handy.
Losing 2 members there is absolutely enough for No Name to push forward, though, and Team Diverge should be going down. Sleepy Panda getting re-knocked, both kills going over, and credit to Team Diverge as a result. Twerkaholics go down as well, and we're into the top 6 rather early, I'll say. The fact that we've got 2 rings left with 6 teams apiece, it means that this lobby has gotten pretty far out of hand, and teams are going to have the opportunity to play similarly to previously, their cards close to their chest, but as they move around the map, making use of the rocks on height, as I believe Bad Boys still in this as well, are a squad that took charge of that high ground early.
Yeah, a lot of teams playing it real late there, waiting just until that zone was going to start moving to move in towards this final area. LTC Esports, in fact, were one of the last ones to get away. They really didn't want to give up the high ground, but in the end, it is going to have to be that push in here. No Name still just trying to keep a hold of this area that they started to fortify early on. They've kept a hold of this whole time. They've third-partied a couple squads. They've made it work for themselves. You said it was a difficult place to work with. It's definitely been a good one, though. Spraying down into a corner, just make sure that you cannot miss any shots here. Den Pride is going to just be able to get that res off. They've got a lot of cover to work with. Interestingly, nobody coming in from the north just means that they have no way of losing this position.
Drone Mafia taken out on their way in as LTC Esports take their step up. Really pushing the envelope, especially given their performance in the most recent preseason qualifiers. No Name still struggling for their own piece of heaven right now, up against Godly Daddies, who've sandwiched themselves into this corner. It's one of the last remaining pieces that will be a part of the zone. Even No Name is going to have to push up to this, and height is available, something that Godly Daddies need to be taking into consideration.
Yeah, and up against a Sia on both teams here, it just means constant barrages of abilities, making sure that either you're suppressed, they know exactly where you are, anything they can get their hands on, any kind of advantage in these fights, as the rest of the teams are going to start to circle around and make your job even more difficult. If you can't take that pressure off from No Name or Godly Daddies, it means you're just going to get pushed from another side. It means you're just going to have more problems to deal with later on in the game, because here come everyone else. LTC Esports, already on 9 kills, are going to be finding another angle here on Godly Daddies and just making sure that, yeah, you can't leave from that side, you can't leave from this side either. There's no way out of here. They're just going to run their way in, use every ability they can to keep them in that corner, and spray down from on top. Dan Mantic not quite finding the shots, but in the end, it will be a knock to start things off just about, and I think that is going to be Godly Daddies eliminated by a good push from LTC Esports, but now they're in an awkward position themselves. They've swapped positions here. Godly Daddies and No Name now know exactly where this team are. They know they're weak. They can start spraying down on top of this one, third-partying these guys. They didn't know at all that No Name were on the other side of this one. LTC Esports eliminated as well.
Into the top 3, and a Kraber in hand can change the game on a dime. No Name holding out. The squad on the high ground, Paps and Dalt looking down, could get an angle into this, but the biggest problem is that the squads in front of them have so much loot. Vengeance are pushed right up against Bad Boys, both looking down on No Name, who have managed their win so far, and it's Bad Boys that have to move first. Vengeance, taking note of this, could look for a few more knocks.
Great shots with the G7 there from T-Breezy. It's going to take a little more than that to push out of this position and just make sure that they can start this fight good here. Revealed, obviously. There's a lot of recon across these 3 squads. It's slowed down massively as everybody's just trying to play for as much tiny bit of hard cover as possible.
It's going to be a difficult fight. Vengeance's inclination has got to be to just send it at Bad Boys, because if they don't, they're going to get farmed up as they try and move out from these rocks. Simultaneously, Bad Boys have to know this and know that No Name are waiting to third-party any engagement that comes from that direction. It's Bad Boys right in the middle with both teams on the side, really holding their fates in their hands For Vengeance, it's going to be a matter of time, and if I'm looking at Bad Boys and reading this right, as only a 2-person squad, I don't even know if they can fend off that push.
Yeah, this is going to be incredibly difficult. No Name just they hold all the cards. They have this whole game positional-wise. They stick there. They've got so much cover to work with, plus the Wattson gates, just making sure that nobody is going to be able to get in at all. You can see they're just waiting for anything to happen, waiting for anyone to push, and eventually people are going to start to have to push here. The ring's starting to close in. Oh my god, DenPride moving quickly around the edge. Might be able to just spray down a couple here. Takes them off guard. Out goes the Arcstar, going to have to back up a little bit as other teams move in. The Horizon Ult isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to be destroyed immediately. T-Breezy trying to spray down one more. Vengeance try to get the best they can out of this position. So far, No Name have held on to this one. T-Breezy can't quite get away. All of that ability to move around just being shut down completely. Funk just spraying down one more. Bad Boys on top of this. Oh, Vengeance eliminated. Can they get one more onto No Name here? Not quite. Just spray down a little more. There we go. Bad Boys are able to take the game away. No Name doing incredibly well to stick in it for that long. But it is Bad Boys that end up the third party.
Well, that's the competitive experience making the difference there, because Bad Boys holding on to that spot won the game of chicken that end game became, with Vengeance and No Name both really nervous about the other. The fact that No Name committed threw both squads onto the low ground, and Bad Boys were able to clean that up. Dantro, I was slack-jawed watching that happen, just looking at it going, no! What were you doing?
Dude, I'm right there with you. I'm like, okay, you have these 2 players left. They're just trying to play for that final, the final moments. And I'm like, okay, eventually they'll probably get wiped out, right? No, I did not expect them to actually be the team to make the third party and actually win the match. What an insane map number 1. I felt like we started it. It was very slow. People were very hesitant. It seemed like out of nowhere, it was just, everybody was just inting everyone. And then as we got down to those last final 3 teams, it just grind to a halt. It was insane, man.
It really was. I was surprised by the way that the pace of the game changed so drastically in spikes more so than a big curve. Because starting off the game, everything was slow. And you understand it, because everybody, now that they're in the finals lobby, has so much to lose. It isn't a matter of getting top 10. You need that first place spot, but it was these little missteps, I think, not recognizing that teams absolutely would push if necessary, that ended up changing that game, especially at the end, but even here at the beginning when I really did curse TSS. I do feel bad about that.
Hey, it happens. Caster curse is real. Twiggy, while we talk about some of the aggression and we see some of these replays going on down, any surprising kind of team fights come out that, you remember, you're like, wow, I'm surprised this team is trying to push this right now?
I mean, LTC Esports did so well with all of the position they had. They weren't playing the positional game like No Name were. I mean, No Name were just getting advance intel on where that next zone was going to be. They were getting in there quickly and just making sure they could start to defend it. I was really impressed by the way they played that one, but LTC Esports were the exact opposite. They went late to everything. They pushed in everywhere. They somehow just managed to get in at the perfect time on every fight, third party, everyone.
And let's talk a little bit. A team that we mentioned at the top of the show that seemingly, they did pretty okay. It's going to be Blackhand. And, we saw Griffin there was the last one alive and almost came out with a 1v3. That was probably my favorite moment. Just kind of almost like ratting it up and somehow almost putting that team on ice skates and, well, sending them back to the lobby. So it was wild. But let's talk about this end game, right? I mean, obviously, Bad Boys, what are you going to do, especially when you're kind of just shooting fish in a barrel at the end there? Well, you can see here the total points. Dia, help me break this down for what we're seeing when it comes to the points.
I mean, a 22-point game is a good, big start for Bad Boys. It isn't to the level of dominance that you might expect from a squad that's just going to come in and sweep everything, but I don't expect Bad Boys to do that, and I don't expect anyone to do that. I think the biggest surprise to me, though, has to be LTC, because playing Edge in the way that they did, LTC really did come out swinging in a way that we did not characterize from them in the preseason qualifiers. They were, yes, a team that wanted to fight, but not one that was often winning every fight, was often in the best position. They actually managed to, having picked up the same amount of kills as the squad that was in first place, keep themselves in the conversation, make me really curious about their Game 2 performance.
Yeah, I think they're setting themselves up great to continue on here in these next 2 maps on Stormpoint. Twiggy, any surprises looking at this? Anybody at the top that maybe you're like, wow, we overlooked them, or maybe anyone at the bottom who you're like, what are you doing down there, friends?
I mean, we pointed out already that TSS and Storm. Look, that's Dia's fault. Let's just pin that down to that. We can just move on and say, you know what, it's fine. Black Hand really fell into a trap earlier on in the game as well. It seemed like No Name, obviously, they knew what they were doing in terms of positioning. So many teams just fell into their little spider's web that they created over there. I mean, in the end, they fell into their own spider's web against Bad Boys after they ran after Vengeance towards the end of the game. But I think the thing was that I don't think anybody, these teams that we really expect to get a lot of kills, Showing Map, Black Hand, obviously, really understood exactly the game that No Name were going for there, because everybody just walked in and got third-partied and third-partied and third-partied by each other, and everyone missed out on points in the end apart from those top 4 teams.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like absolute chaos and, hectic there at the end of that game. So, I mean, game number 1 is, I feel like, going to set the precedent as we kind of prep for these next 2 maps on Storm Point. So, we are going to go to a quick break, though, so stick around, because when we come back, we're going to be saying goodbye to Dia and Twiggy for a little bit. We're going to be bringing on Mellowcrit and Porosaurus here, and we're going to have map number 2. Stick around. You'd be a quick break. Welcome on back to the Apex Legends Global Series Challengers number 2 finals, of course, powered by the Spark Series. We say goodbye to Dia and Twiggy, and we're bringing on Mellowcrit and Porosaurus here for map number 2. Poro, talk to me about the end of that map number 1, because that was just kind of crazy.
Yeah, what's up, shorties? So first, yeah, that end game was wild for a number of reasons, right? So obviously, me and Mello, we were sitting there watching it at the end, and we see LTC kind of just hanging out on the south side, right, while everything was going on off to the north. And then we were talking to each other, oh man, LTC's in such a good position, and all of a sudden they push. They just push in like they forgot about they just had no idea about this team on the west, or they couldn't do anything about the team on the east. There were so many different things that they could do, and LTC had such a great game up until that point, Mello. It almost felt like, I hate using the word thrill. I hate using it because I don't have all the information that these guys do usually, so it feels like disingenuous to say that they threw. But it feels like that was kind of a really hastily made decision on the part of LTC.
Yeah, I mean, there might be I will say maybe throw is not exact. Yeah, you're right. You hate to throw it around.
I think
the lack of information though is definitely something like kind of critical. And I mean, Dandra, you were watching it too. It's sometimes it's kind of tough to make those decisions. Sometimes you have to pursue that KP. It looked like the right moment. Was it? Not so much.
Yeah, I mean, they try to do their best, right? I mean, it's kind of one of those, I feel like, spur-of-the-moment decisions where you're ready to kind of throw it on in. But, hey, guess what? We're keeping it quick now. Don't worry, friends. We got map number 2 ready to go in, so I'm going to give it over to you guys. Take it away. Bring the hype.
Thank you so much, Dandra. We'll hop into this next game. Poro, I'm so excited to be on the desk with you, or rather behind the mic with you again.
Hey, both.
And we get to cover Storm Point game number 2. There are a lot of teams that I think we're really excited to watch. We talked about them ahead of time, and they showed up. They performed. Bad Boys definitely in that conversation, just having a huge game, and Shoreline Mafia certainly farming up a lot of those kills as well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think Bad Boys has to be sitting there counting their blessings, right, for how that game ended. I mean, they're sitting there sandwiched in the dead center by the center of the circle by 2-3 strong squads. It's only a duo. And then, of course, the 2-3 strong squads end up wrapping and pushing into each other. They had the exact same idea at the exact same time, and it worked out perfectly to Bad Boys' favor. Now, that to be fair, Bad Boys, they still had to win that. They still had to win it as a duo. They still had to pick the right fights to come in, and they did it just beautifully. So well-earned victory by them. But yeah, definitely one of the teams we had on our minds. And look at that. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Bad Boys already starting off here.
Yeah, and they're already involved in a 3v3 on drop. You've been eating so much damage to that Thermite, and now a much closer engagement than it might have appeared at the start. They're actually going to go for sticking on the res. Funk, the newest addition to Bad Boys, just looking absolutely huge. Very mechanically talented player. Let's see if the mechanics are enough to get them the drop win here. Yes, indeed. Godly Daddies will be knocked out early.
Godly Daddies. They made it the late game last time. This time, it got real close. But what a gutsy res, too. And yeah, let them know what you think about him with that Mozambique. As we cut back over to Bad Boys again, you know, you got the team that won the first game. They come in here, they get a hot drop situation. They come out of here with 3 points strong. Things are coming up Bad Boys right now.
Yeah, things are definitely coming up Bad Boys. If they continue this again, the stakes are a lot higher than they might have been in last year's Challenger Circuit. These are games where we're fighting for an automatic qualification to the Split 2 Pro League qualifier, which is a massive, massive deal. These teams were maybe not able to make it if they were playing in the preseason qualifiers. This is their opportunity to make that happen, and it could happen after this 6-game set. But we are on the second game, Poro. There's a lot of playing to go, and I think something pretty notable here is I think we had 2 contests on the previous drop, and this time around it's only Bad Boys who had to deal with one.
Yeah, and they didn't. I don't think they had to deal with anything the first time around either. So it's kind of people deciding how they want to play it. Now, given how Game 1 played out, where it was very, very slow through the early, I guess relatively slow through the early and mid game, you know, I guess it's maybe not too terribly surprising that they would want to slow things down a little bit more this time around, as we see a couple of teams getting close to each other. LTC, after that, I mean, it was a fantastic Game 1 up until the point where they made that push. Now getting harassed here early, but it looks like they're doing a fair amount of harassing of their own back onto Asuras.
Yeah, absolutely. When there's damage coming their way, you have to answer back. And this is where the the back end of the early game starts to get a little bit interesting. We get to see what teams opt to prioritize. In this case, Venom Gaming is prioritizing that ring to beacon. So now they'll have a little bit more information. They know what kind of zone they have to work, and that can be massive for a team with this composition. Look at the way that they've selected those legends. Those are really just designed for the staying power, right? The Watson, fantastic for that, of course, and we've got a whole bunch of shields coming out of the Newcastle. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of the character, but when it can make it to those end game scenarios, it can definitely be a very powerful tool.
Yeah, we were talking about this while we were watching in Game 1. You know, these hunker down tower defense type comps where you're doubling up on Newcastle and Watson. It feels like there's very specific situation, not just specific situation, but very specific sections of the map that works. So now whether or not this circle is going to provide any of those, we'll see. But right now, TSS had a very short game last time around. This thing's a little bit longer this time. But again, another fight for Asuras.
Yeah, they're looking to get aggressive. That Thermite is going to get swallowed up by a Watson gen that we can't quite see, but still the damage has been massively done for whoever's anchoring on the back of that fight. That's going to be all of Buff Pathfinder going down in almost an instant. That was insane. What a push from Asuras, but it looks like the third party may be on the way here.
And the third party needs to be careful, though, because they need to have been, I guess, reading that kill feed, know what they're pushing into, and know that that fight ended very, very quickly. Asuras not taking any knocks, not taking any damage, really. So it looks like Blackhand maybe pulling off of this now, realizing that maybe the third party was not exactly set up for them here. It's a few more shots there from Asuras.
Yeah, playing patient around. Might have just been a warning ult, a zoning ult, what have you. Maybe something hits, maybe something didn't. But yeah, Blackhand, a team that was notably absent from the late game, at least in a better capacity than a solo Rat, who almost truly just spelled spoiler on Team Diverge, excuse me. But now Shoreline Mafia looking to play spoiler on Your Free XP and Co. This
really
big
nice
swing
push
here.
Huge push there from Shoreline Mafia, and yeah, Zednam just taking all the attention from Chadamus Prime, allowing Stunny and Curse to just wrap right on top of them, and now they're gonna have to get back on the ball here because TSS looks like they want a piece, but they're gonna take all that they can handle in the back there. Now Messiah gonna try to make a push as well. Is gonna have to pull back again. So great job here being done to prevent this push from TSS.
Yeah, but TSS is getting these resets. Great amount of health to
Eva.
work with. Ambino does go down low, but the Eva coming out from TSS was just enough there. Shoreline Mafia is eliminated. Very swift third party there. It was looking a little dicey, but that re-engage was great. The way that they managed their shields and their spacing was also fantastic. And in the end, they clear out yet another squad from this side. And that's kind of the hope, right? When you're playing this sort of more edge style, more edge composition, you're hoping that you can clear all the squads from your back. They might have a couple more friends to deal with here in a second.
Yeah, they might. It looked like the hold was so good there from Shoreline Mafia, but eventually TSS does get their man. But as you said, once again, you're playing that edge style. You got to be ready for the push to come through from the edge here. As we check in with Twerkaholics, making the long wrap around outside. They're gonna have to stop down to get a little heals on here before they continue making their way in. And it looks like TSS is gonna avoid that fight down there on the south side as well. They continue to move on.
Yeah, they'll continue to progress through this ring, just gaining up resources, soaking it up, whatever might have been left behind by other teams after they left their POIs. And here we see Team Diverge, the team that we just mentioned, did have a bit of a rough time taking out the solo from Blackhand, and now they're in a slightly better position to hopefully hold out a team that's outside of zone. And pop back over to TSS, right as we had said, there's another team that might be on the horizon looking from the outside in. And TSS, this is exactly what their game plan is sort of designed to do. They need to keep out the squad and hopefully farm up that KP on their way in.
And they realized it too. They were making their way away. They were moving in, and they took just a stray shot in the back, and immediately all members flipped, turned back, paid attention back towards the edge of the wall where the rest of that other team are still sitting. I think that's Vengeance. Yep, there we go. You can see Dalton just still looking over in that general vicinity, trying to figure out what they want to do here. It looks like TSS has now pulled away once again. Well, actually, no, they're still looking back here. TSS wants all of this. They are ready to take this fight. They're prepared to take this fight. They have the comp for it. And, yep, I think Vengeance realizing that, just going to Valcon out.
Yeah, and this is something that was mentioned on the desk with Twiggy and Dia, where sometimes when it can be a really difficult transition, this can be like a make or break if you're going to push into that team. And hopefully when you're 3v3, risking a third party, risking really your entire game to that fight, sometimes it's a lot simpler and you can be a lot more confident hitting that Valk ult. I will say, of course, that utility does start to fall off early. You don't want to be late Valk ulting into no man's land and just praying that something is open. But in this case, again, fantastic use of that character. That is exactly what it's made to do, and now they are well within the next zone. Not too deep, of course, but at least in a playable spot that they can work with for later.
Going to take their time making their way in from that southeastern side. Now they do have to worry a little bit about their backs, as there was another team other than TSS kind of coming behind there. But Vengeance, yep, they're going to lose Paps right off the bat. TBA immediately pushes out to deal with them. Not hunkering down inside the facility themselves, and Vengeance, just like that, going to get taken out. TBA, a very, very effective push.
And that is really critical, right? We have teams that are able to play deep zone. They have that Watson, of course, that is kind of there to facilitate that. However, when you know there's a team in a bad position, one, and you know that other teams aren't there early enough to punish and take your spot if you walk out, two, great, that's 3 KP. The math is very simple for us sometimes, and so they do exactly what they needed there to claim that KP.
Man. Math is hard for me. I don't know what you're talking about, but all right. Well, you can see those tags down there on the southeastern side. That is once again TSS starting to make their move in now. There's another squad down here, 4-3 Linear, Pubsky, all waiting for this push, and just like that, okay, TSS working around on the outside. Not going to pull all the way in here. His Flavor's going to have to stop down, get the heal off. Messiah have to do the same, get those shields back up to full. But they are right on top of each other, hiding in the smokes, waiting to spot each other out as Echoes boys already lost Quispy, and now Linear might be in trouble as well. Oh, nice Arc Star.
Sometimes the networking is your biggest enemy here, and Quispy unfortunately going down to the server god. So Echoes might still be able to do something here. Like I've said before, I've seen crazier, Poro, and definitely Echoes boys has a defensible position to maybe make this happen, especially when 4-3 Linear is clipping kids like that. That was a massive spray there. Great way to stave off that team. Holding off for now. They continue to hold this off, Poro, and that will no longer be accessible in a moment thanks to the zone, but that might also mean Echoes boys might lose their one corner of reprieve, and TSS might capitalize.
I mean, TSS, of all the teams that they could push into with this Bangalore, it had to be one that had a Bloodhound, didn't it? And they just have to sit there and wait for it. Now, Linear, I gotta say, great teamwork on the part of Pubsky and Linear there in trading who was kind of looking and peeking into that hole. Is the push going to come through? Linear's ready for it. It's going to go down. Pubsky will go down as well, and TSS pulls off the fight without taking a knock.
You know, it is what it is sometimes. Great execution there from TSS. I think maybe they didn't even realize they were in a 2 versus 3 scenario, but in the end, they do pick up that 2 KP, not going to be 3. But another big boon is the fact that they control this whole side of the map now. Again, and you're on the edge when you're walking in, when you're eliminating teams, what you want is to clear your back. You want to be the last one walking so that you won't have to deal with what's in front of you. And so far, doing a decent job, but they have one more walk up that they need to execute, and TBA does not want to make that easy for them.
I gotta say, it was a hell of a hold by Echoes boys the first time around, but asking them to do it twice, just a little bit too much there. As we check in with TBA, they're going to take the high ground, see what they can spot out from up here. So far, so good. They not even taking shots, really, is key. Just kind of looking over in the distance.
Actually does spot out the Valk ultimate, and that's most likely going to be TSS who are Valking out here. And 14 squads, this is starting to get crowded, which might mean that this Valkyrie ultimate could be incredibly dangerous. In the meanwhile, Bad Boys now having to walk up and look for a building to take. It looks like this one is not... It has been vacated, excuse me, and they can just hold it down for now. They're still in zone as well, so Bad Boys still looking at the possibility of a very good end game here. They've got a couple more transitions to make, but not sitting too shabby with 3 purples to do it.
Yeah, working pretty good for Bad Boys so far, as they are holding on the north side. Now, there's still a couple of teams that have been hanging out all the way in the north that haven't really made their way down to get involved in all of this yet. Risen Rose being one, No Name being another. It looks like Risen Rose might be pushing over towards Venom right now. For the time being, though, Bad Boys in a fairly nice spot as we check back in with Hambino And Blur Flavors Messiah may have been pinned down a little bit upon landing with that Valcult.
Yeah, and it looks like they're just playing a spot that they can stay very quiet with. They don't want to get found out. They don't want to get messed with. So playing small for the time being. Hopefully it holds long enough. Meanwhile, Venom Gaming trying to hold off against the team that you just mentioned. Risen Rose is on the push. But with this wall, the Newcastle wall is helping them just enough to hold out the angles. But it is not enough. Risen Rose does end up taking this down, but now the Black Hand is here to take down the rest. That's going to be a knock for Save Griffin. But look at Yasto actually getting knocked down. Save Griffin down to just a sliver of health and half HP left. Flesh for Voltic does find a shield swap though and will extend the fight.
I mean, it's all the perfect timing here for Black Hand, for Risen Rose. Everything that did was correct. It was just a third party on a third party here. Risen Rose not going down just yet though. Blood Cube right on time. We'll take a few shots in, won't get the knock, and now Fluxon is down. Trevstacks, actually Trevstacks down all the way. Fluxstack still can be rezzed. Ranch on Spaghetti though, this is the problem. Off in the distance, has an angle onto all of this. As Plug Cube trying to make the decision here.
And that's actually tragic for Black Hand, to be honest. The way that they pushed in, it looked really firm, really confident, what you have to do. But all of a sudden, Cabbage is able to swing on just a little bit later after they're engaged with Risen Rose. And they are the ones that now get to pick up all of this free loot. And looking at that castle wall, ultimately, again, this is one of my complaints with the way that Newcastle wall works. Sometimes you put it down and you hope, hey, now we're good. You can't look at us. You can't look in. The problem is you also sometimes can't look out. It blocks some of your angles that you can counter, and suddenly you're kind of feeling like fish in a barrel there. That seemed to have happened a little bit. But Risen Rose is still alive. They're still holding on. They're still playing. They might be able to pick up some banners if they can play quiet enough. Plugged Cube, the last stand for that squad.
Yeah, Plug Cube just playing it real quiet for right now. But I mean, I think... yeah, I mean, exactly what we were talking about. I mean, this seems to be one of those spots that's just tailor-made for that Newcastle Watson setup. And, I mean, it looked like they had it exactly how they wanted it, and it didn't work. So, you know, it's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes here. So Cabbage now trying to decide how they're going to make their next move in. They still have that sneaky snake of Plug Cube just kind of hanging out right behind them. Another team just off in the distance here. As it looks like, I think that's Ranch on Spaghetti holding it down. Push coming through. They're going to spot one. Cabbage. And Kimbo will slow things down just a bit as the Watson shields keep coming back out.
That was an interesting swing there, actually eating the damage from the fences, but now has a bit of an angle to work with. Is it the best one, though? It's looking like it definitely wasn't. Ranch on Spaghetti, it does have one member down, but they actually just turned this around completely onto Cabbage, and now they're the ones picking up kills, but there's a third opponent they have to deal with now, and that is the zone at their backs, and now they are wide out in the open. Clinkbot going down very low, and now they are getting sent on by the last couple of members holding out on the water, and TSS another victim of the open air and the open ocean in front of them. This zone is horrible. Look at the way these squads are just falling one after the other.
Like dominoes of death and destruction. As we check in with Twerkaholics, who've managed to make it all the way to the end, but have next to no HP left to survive on. No Name going to make the push. They're going to take out Twerkaholics, and they have what looks like to be the last circle all to themselves here. They've got complete ownership of this rock. Now, LTC still off to the north, and you've got TBA that's still 3 up, but it looks like LTC pushing right into TBA as Risen Rose will get deleted.
It almost looked like the res actually went into the fence, and that's a little bit tragic. If so, LTC now finally pushing in. TBA is finally eliminated. We're down to the last 2 squads. LTC had a bit of a questionable decision in game number 1, and on the other side is No Name, who, to be quite honest, if there were questionable decisions, No Name might have made one of the only other ones, but now a straight up 3v3. This team does not have zone, but neither does LTC, and in fact, No Name has all the angles they need to work with right now.
Absolute great reset from game number 1, where LTC maybe lost a little bit there, No Name as well, but they find themselves in a final 1v1 battle for the victory. Then Pride is going to get taken out. Chicks is still up. They are working around this rock, trying to spot out what they can see. They've got him picked out. They're going to see him crossing the water. Wide out in the open. Gyozy going to have to drop back down, though. The damage just too much.
Yeah, they're laying it out. Right now, Gyozy is most likely going to get laid out, but has he done enough damage for No Name to clean this up? LTC just has one member left, full health, and one member flesh, and now both are sitting on a sliver of health and maybe one cell to their name, though it was not quick enough. The damage was not dealt swiftly enough, and now LTC get to swing in.
Nice
2v1. No Name is going to need a miracle here to make it happen, and they still could do it. Dan Manic actually working with a charge rifle as well, but they managed to wall them out in LTC takedown game number 2.
Wow, what a finish there for LTC. And a little bit of vindication after game number 1, where they had 9 kills. Had, I believe it was 15 points overall. They were looking great, and they end up taking a questionable fight early, but they shake that off, come back here for game number 2, and secure themselves a victory. They are looking fantastic here tonight.
Yeah, that was a great play from them, and they're showing that consistency. Dandro, they have redeemed themselves. They're back on track. A much cleaner play. They're actually managing to play out of a difficult spot to win the game.
Yeah, that was just kind of a very I'm going to use the word awkward kind of end game that we saw there. I was kind of talking with Dia and Twiggy off stream, and it just kind of seemed like everybody who went over by that bridge just forgot how to aim. It's seemingly what happened, because just like it was fight after fight where we're just like sitting there, we're like, what is happening? Like, these people should be winning this right now, and they're just straight up not. And then obviously you kind of have that zone pull. We watched so many teams just get picked apart in the wide open, and so we kind of, I think I wrote down, we went from like 13 squads to 6 in about the span of 30 seconds.
Brutal.
Absolutely brutal indeed. But woo, what a fantastic map number 2. I mean, I feel like it's only getting more electric and more electric. Poro, give me your kind of highlight. What was kind of like that one moment that really wowed you in that map number 2?
I gotta say, it's feeling like we're talked a lot about comps coming in here, and it feels like some of these edge comps are having a lot of success here. But at the end of the day, the stuff that has been meta for a while now still seems to be the stuff that's ending up in the late game every single time. Whether or not that's just a symptom of this map or a symptom of this lobby, I'm not sure. But it is. It seems like LTC and No Name have really kind of found their way here around this map.
Hey, I'm definitely kind of looking forward to see, are they going to keep that same momentum into map number 3 and also in, of course, to World's Edge? But, I mean, look at some of these fights that went down, Mello. I mean, you were doing a great job, even when you were off camera, kind of breaking down. Where do you think some of the breakdowns happened on some of these teams where they had these fights that they should have won, but it just kind of was a Uno reverse card and they're getting knocked out of the lobby?
I mean, sometimes it really just takes a moment of fighting out another team. Even in disadvantageous situations, we see people turn things around. I like to throw it out. I've seen crazier, right? In this case, I think the likes of TSS were very clean. I was a little bit surprised by the engage of Blackhand, specifically on this replay, actually, where initially it looked really good for them, but shortly after, they were just absolutely wiped off the face of Stormpoint. And then, of course, you mentioned it, but that final ring, I mean, was a disastrous pull. Look at how much open water was there. So I think even though fights should have been won, I think ultimately Stormpoint will claim whoever it decides is not worthy of being in the top of the top, and LTC definitely earned that right.
Yeah, and I mean, and even coming down to that final kind of battle between the two, we were seeing just, that kind of 2v1 going on, but it is going to finally end up with LTC being on top there. Poro, any kind of, how's this looking to you? Is this about what we kind of expected to see after watching the app start to finish?
Kind of feels like it. I mean, obviously Bad Boy is a little bit further down the leaderboard this time, but still netting themselves about 6 points. So not going down without collecting a few more points for themselves. I got to say, man, Blackhand, I don't know what it is, Mello. It seems like they have issues with Stormpoint. And I'm not sure what it is. Going back to last week, they had all their points essentially on World's Edge, and then it came to Stormpoint in the second half, and they just fell off the face of the earth. And so far, it's been a slow start for them here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of Black Hand. They've gone through some roster changes here and there, and they've had a couple members that really had to step up. Voltic going from that coaching role in preseason qualifiers, now stepping up. I think the team's identity has sort of shifted a little bit because truly, when I was watching them in some of the other tournaments, some of the preseason qualifiers, it almost felt like Storm Point was where they had to make up a lot of ground on some of their points. So that shift is definitely a little bit interesting to see. And yeah, maybe the game plan, the footing that they're looking for on Storm Point isn't quite there, and I'm curious to see where that leaves them in the overall leaderboard, as well as obviously our top three. LTC obviously has to be in the conversation for our top three right now. In fact, at the top of the leaderboard, 34, Dandro. I want to say that was like a beautiful way to make up for past mistakes.
Beautiful. I mean, kind of start to finish there. You love a good kind of redemption arc, good redemption story. And map 2 is a great map to kind of do it. And so they're up here, but not too far behind is going to be Bad Boys and No Name. Only that 1 point difference between the two. And, kind of only sitting 6 or 7 points behind LTC Esports. So while LTC does have a little bit of that lead, it's definitely able to still come back. And then we kind of see the cliff, the drop off that's here. And well, TB8, Shoreline Mafia, Vengeance, and Risen Rose, and even Twerkaholics kind of all grouping up there in that middle. So as we kind of get ready to go to map 3, Poro, I mean, who are you kind of looking that really needs to kind of clutch it up here and maybe in map 3 make some big moves and kind of escape from this sort of middle of the pack?
I mean, I think you got to keep your eyes on obviously LTC and Bad Boys to see if they can maybe just put this thing out of reach just off of the first 3 games, because you never know how how things are gonna switch up once the map changes over. If you're gonna still have that same momentum that you had on Stone Point going over into World's Edge, and conversely, what teams are gonna start picking it up on World's Edge. So I think right now, when you're hot and you're finding points on Storm Point, you got to do as much as you can to capitalize on all that. If you're one of these teams chasing, just try to come out of this with some amount of points and set yourself up for the map switch.
Yeah, that's going to be what we're going to be looking forward to as we get ready to go into map number 3 here of Storm Point. So we're going to bring back in Dia and Twiggy after a short break. And we're going to be wrapping up map number 3. finals. Man, we were kind of talking during that map number 2 off, and that bridge seemingly was a curse on a lot of teams in that lobby. Dia, break it down for me. What did we just witness?
I mean, it is a challenge to make your way through barometer zones, especially those that pull away from barometer proper. Fully understanding and respecting that, zone caught a lot of teams off guard. It's very infrequent, quite honestly, that if you are a Challenger Circuit team, you get practice where you have a lot of teams alive in end zones, and so it's understandable, certainly, but it is something that for teams that are outside of our 7 returning squads from the first Challenger Circuit should be brushed up on in between Challenger Circuit 2, 3, and 4, because this is their qualifiers, hopefully, for the Pro League, and in Pro League, mistakes like that are not going to cut it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in that Pro League kind of scenario, you're playing against people who know exactly what they're doing and will take advantage of that for sure. But let's get ready to go into map number 3 here. You can see the drops are coming on in. So, Twiggy, Dia, take it away.
Thank you very much. It's our last time on you know, it was going to be so cool, and then I just stuttered, and now it's Spawn Point, and you know, we all love a bit of Spawn
ready,
Point.
ready?
It's Quispy's favorite map is Spawn Point.
I'm going to do my Dandro impression. Ready?
Okay.
All right. Twiggy, Dia, take it away for game number 3.
All right, it's our last time on Storm Point here today. We're going to be moving over to World's Edge next, but this time it's going to be for all the beans. Obviously, LTC have been doing incredibly well so far. We can see if they will keep up their streak of getting up into that top 4, maybe get another win on the board. Let's see if Blackhand can hit some shots this time. I mean that in the most loving of ways, but last game was really not exemplary.
I think Porosaurus has actually highlighted this well in the way that Blackhand do have a lot of expectations surrounding them. I dare say that, especially during the preseason qualifiers, they were the team that everybody assumed would make it into Pro League and that just barely didn't make the cut. Preseason qualifier, it felt like they were robbed of their first place spot by GOW, who came in out of nowhere and slaughtered. It was really a story of Blackhand being set back, and, well, Week 2 hasn't been that kind to them. Porosaurus has been harping on this. Their World's Edge was much better in week number 1 of Challenger Circuit. And I think that's what we have to look forward to. That's what every Blackhand fan has to be looking at right now, is the main reason that Storm Point has not been treating them that well. Their game plan revolves much better around their landing, their rotation, everything once we hit World's Edge.
Big man almost coming up massively there for Bad Boys and Yubbin. Not quite managing to get the kill. Very close. A good crack there and almost a knock, I think, down to 55 HP. In the end, these kind of early games scrapped are really going to come down to those thin margins of HP.
Bad Boys, we've already seen them win a fight like this, and that was with much more awkward loot because they've got both the one-way smokes available to them, another, say, 5 seconds on the scan. I think quite nicely, Godly Daddies play respectfully, knowing exactly how things went last time and understanding that the dynamics are now even more in the favor of Bad Boys. With Blackhand pushing up on Downed Beast, however, they have almost found some knocks. Decent damage out of them, and mostly Evo leveling for right now, but the back end of that has turned into a kill already onto Team Diverge's Sleepy Panda. Definitely a player that I've had in my highlight for quite a long time. Sleepy Panda, ever since the Absolute Monarchy days. Really standout player, and right now, unfortunately, relegated back to Spawn. Maybe the beacon grab, if that, for game number 3.
Yeah, looks like Blackhand are really hungry for these kills. Obviously, they've had 2 relatively disappointing maps in a row. Starting off this game with a team wipe would be absolutely beautiful for them. Completely reset their momentum as they head towards World's Edge. That is the most important part, I feel like, for this team at the moment. It's forget what happened in those past 2 maps. Forget the shots that you know, barely, like, I mean, a team that they barely wiped that could have given them the whole map, or the whole, that side, at least, of the final zone to themselves. It's alright, put it behind you, and maybe we can start this game off a little better. It's a good start. One kill is obviously a great thing to start off with, and some good Evo leveling for them as well. Starts off that early game quite nicely.
1 kill plus the high ground as well, which is something that, while not a tangible benefit, should be giving them a lot of intangible advantages going into the later stages of this game. In Downed Beast, height does mean a lot, especially when it comes to collecting the remainder of the kills that are littering it around you. Asura's relegated to the low ground for now, will be eating G7 shots from Black Hand constantly, and Cabbage may very well be the same. They have the boon, fortunately, of this building for now, and with a Wattson, as so many teams are running these days, we'll have an easier time holding it down.
Yeah, I think if we kind of look towards the map at any point, we will see how many teams have headed all the way towards this side of the map. Everybody is on this side of the zone. This is going to probably be one of the fastest games we've seen, I think.
You think so?
Early game, I think so. I think everyone is in the same place. Godly Daddies is already eliminated. Here we go. Come on, please, just prove me right, guys. I think that would just be beautiful if everybody just engaged with each other all at once. We just got the game over with in the first 2 zones.
LTC Esports, actually, one of the teams that, like you talked about, were basically holding the same quadrant as yet another squad wiped them out. Big highlight for today. The last time that we really saw LTC, it was when they came, I think it was 17th in preseason qualifier finals number 4. But since they didn't end up making it into the Challenger Circuit finals just last week, instead placing 12th, barely in the semifinals, not making it, the fact that they have showed up today with this W key, kill 'em all mentality has clearly benefited them, and they're not the only ones taking this attitude in. Echoes boys with 4-3 linear finding the knock onto Venom Pure are definitely demonstrating some controller standard shots as they pop down and find a squad wipe onto Venom Gaming.
Venom Gaming had no way of coping with that. There was just no, like, as soon as that EMP came in, it was just shots on shots. Oh, you want a Horizon? Here, have that. Stay in that corner. We'll wipe all of you immediately. They got no chance of getting out of there. No chance to fire back whatsoever. Beautiful.
4-3 linear.
That is that's one way to start a fight, but now they have to head off another team for themselves. Bad Boys, who have done quite well so far this series. Once again. Fight's over in a matter of seconds. Oh, it's a 4th party. Here comes Stormtroopers, a team that has been late to wake up so far today. They get in there, but they're not having such a great time starting off that fight. It doesn't matter if you're going to 3rd party. Bad Boys, they are not going to take any of that.
I gotta be honest with you. I was looking at that fight going, don't move Stormtroopers, but even now, the reset coming in has TSS walking up on the back of Bad Boys. They haven't really found too much damage as Rolling Thunder impeded them, and now Stormtrooper's spot has been taken by the Bad Boys on their reset. It's a creative move from them that really keeps TSS substantially at bay. Pushing down into Wattson Newcastle, even if it isn't yours, will not be fun.
Man, I was going to say that if TSS run into this one, I don't know what's going to happen, because Bad Boys, they 3rd party one team, they got 3rd party, they won that fight. I feel like they were on track to just absolutely wipe TSS if they got a little too aggressive there, so I think it's a good idea that they disengage from this one, and detected through the edge of that smoke. Might be a little bit awkward, but I think they'll survive for now. I don't think Bad Boys really want to start another fight after kind of getting 3 teams in their in their sights in one go.
Oh my god, it's just stunning. A great
wow.
Man.
I mean, honestly, yeah. He has such a nice car, man.
Yeah. He's going to be, well, finishing up the IMC Armory, I presume, with the rest of the squad, while TSS sit in their own position right outside of checkpoint. It's a pretty large rotation they made around here, but I think a really heads-up one, since running into Bad Boys has already cost 2 different squads their lives. TSS will be able to relocate to a position that gives them a little bit better access and more space from this squad heading towards Down Beast, and low ground is available here. I believe they should be able to play it, though most teams that choose to play low ground in Down Beast do so with a Gibraltar.
Yeah. TSS using Valkyrie to the best of their ability. Obviously, you really don't. Valkyrie isn't insanely useful until you do need to relocate, and when you do, she can be incredibly useful. So TSS obviously playing the disengaged game quite well. And here's the map that I was talking about with every squad, just everyone. You know what? That's fine. Like send everyone there. All good. Like,
Downed Beast.
all in one place.
Down Beast is an interesting place to pile squads into as well, because unlike a lot of positions that we're going to see on World's Edge in just one map, where you can stack squads on top of each other sort of ad infinitum, there's a limited number of teams that can support Downed Beast hospitably. There is so much of an open cavern on the inside that two teams can sort of be in, and on the outside there are two buildings the teams can sort of be in, and on the further outside over towards the west, you've got maybe a building and two different platforms. All of that can theoretically support, say, 6 or 7 squads, but as the zone gets tighter and tighter, the lines of sight between each of those POIs turn into this rock, paper, scissors game that forces teams into motion, and that's something that Black Hand, interestingly enough, are not going to be nearly as vulnerable to as everyone else. This could very well be Black Hand's game if they can keep a handle on the massive, as we say, game of rock, paper, scissors that's going to be happening around them.
Ooh, be very careful with what you're saying, dear. Be very careful. We know how your words can affect the game.
I do feel bad about that.
Yeah, I mean, first game, maybe a fluke. Second game, I feel like there was some cosmic force stopping Black Hand from getting kills. Like, I don't know. Something happened. I don't want it to happen to them again, you know? They wanted to hunt that squad at the start of the game. They only got 1 kill out of it, which is great. Obviously, don't get me wrong, but oh my god, Shoreline Mafia are getting involved now. That was the weirdest engagement in a fight I've ever seen. Sunny gets up on the roof.
Sleepy Panda did just get rezzed right now. It's Team Diverge ahead of Shoreline Mafia with a recently picked up member. Shoreline Mafia smelling that weakness or trying to push for this, but we've seen pushes not go their way before. Good off angle from Stunny if he can find it. And good nades as well, piling in this already cracked through a door. Exit from the other side, outer team Diverge. Good damage out from Cursed, but Zednim eats a boatload of it as well, and Shoreline Mafia are getting knocked.
Wow.
Stunny with a great beam, but his teammates are going down left, right, and center. It's going to have to be clean-up crew here for Stunny. 2 finishes, and maybe able to start off the res, but he gets pushed at a very awkward time. He's not ready for that whatsoever. Starts the res, gets out of there. I'm not cursed. I'm so sorry. Gonna have to leave you there. He gets out, but this is an odd position now. What he won in this fight.
This door might get kicked in as well. They're looking for nades, nothing to do on the opposite side of this door. Stunny's locked out, and it's time for the fight to begin again.
Oh man, Stunny hitting shots, using that shield to his advantage, and Team Diverge, oh, by the skin of their teeth there, surviving Shoreline Mafia. That was such a close fight. On the other side of the map, TSS is starting to do quite well as well. It took 3 games, but the teams that you thought were going to be doing well, hey, they've started to come into their own.
I have nothing to say about TSS right now. I am keeping my mouth shut. I will, however, since they've already gone down, praise Team Diverge for the way that they almost held out Shoreline Mafia. They got that res after getting knocked by Black Hand and full thirsted earlier, and still managed to survive up until the top 15, guaranteeing themselves a singular placement point, which, all things considered, is not amazing, but relative to the way that they started the game, still a small victory for them, especially when we consider how close they were to taking out Shoreline Mafia in the end game. Knockdown shields, really the biggest difference there.
Could have been, yeah. The difference between Stunny surviving those shots and absolutely getting demolished. In the end,
Great man.
An amazing man with an amazing car, and honestly, just Stunny, thank you for taking me to your beach house, you know, and looking, taking care of my whole family while I was gone as well. It was just so nice of you.
So generous. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
An amazing man all around, honestly.
We can look forward to TSS though, as they currently are. I have nothing to say on them. What are they doing?
I don't know. Running. There's a lot of running going on. That's for sure. I'm trying to figure out what's going on over here as well.
Skynet coming from above. TSS don't quite land it, but they are going to be able to interrupt. Oh yeah. Even could have been a res. Was just a lot of knockdown shields. Twerkaholics go down. 13 teams left in TSS. I believe that's 2 squad wipes that they've been able to secure so far.
Yeah, somehow they've just been playing around the edges of every piece of cover they can find. You saw them stacking shields a little bit earlier, and just making sure that they had all the facilities that they needed to win those fights. So far, calculated victories left, right, and center.
No Name
that hasn't really got involved with anyone.
Yeah, one of the platforms that we talked about earlier, they've also had really good performances over the course of these 2 games, though they've won neither. No Name have been in the top 3 over both of the games that we've had on StorePoint so far, and I'm hesitant to count them out, much in the same way as I'm hesitant to count out LTC Esports. Every single time we see them, you've got to respect that history, at least, has them in the top 3 squads.
Yeah, they've played a little bit slower this map so far, but it's not stopped them from playing well. TBA have found themselves at a very awkward location here. Tough Pathfinder take a moment at down these to catch their breath.
They'll be able to hit up a few of these cells before peeking over the edge. You don't want to get knocked, of course, when you're looking over to finish off squads, but No Name don't really have that problem with Gyozi on the ground, able to jump right back up using that Valkyrie passive. No Name do have full control of this side of the map. The only squad that I'd be worried about in their case would be TSS, who are going to be approaching from this angle just to the north of No Name. With 2 squads in front of them, Gyozi even is fully distracted, fully looking away from the northern side of the map, and that, oh my lord, with that knock, could just be it.
They're going to move in on that one and try and take out the rest of this squad, or at least get that finish, and down he goes. These guys still have a nice angle. Can they use it to their advantage? Not if they're just going to play under the edge of this ship. There's absolutely no way that Denbright can find his shot down on top of these ones. Nades are going to have to be the name of the game as they try and keep away these members. But the slow start they've had to this game, the tactical play that they've used so far has just left them with almost no shield to work with. TBA eventually does get eliminated by No Name, but now they have to pick up Gyozo's banner. There's really no way to get that member back. And yeah, unfortunately, starting off the game so slowly has left them in an awkward position to carry on the rest of the game, but it's still good to take out TBA.
It is. It's additional points for them, especially beneficial when realizing that later on in the game, things are going to be that much harder with just 2 people. Asuras, they're going to have their own difficult time, as right now bullying other squads. Their concern should also be on the ring that's going to push in front of them. 11 seconds left till that starts to close, and they have to vacate their premises and move directly underneath Downed Beast. Asuras needing to clear out the squads that are there, or challenge for the top if they want to take on Black Hand.
Speaking of which, Shoreline Mafia keep up their streak of good play. They down to 2 members, but mobile respawn beacon. Lovely. Although Stunny's going to take a lot of damage for his troubles. Get out of that.
I don't even know if
it's all good. It's good timing.
Yeah, that's very well may die on the way in.
Yeah, gonna have to move very quick. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's possible. We'll have to wait and see. Cabbage eliminated in the meantime. Curse taking shots. They might have more problems to deal with than just getting Zednim out of that zone. No, he doesn't make it out.
A respectable attempt, and with Cursed knocked as well, Zednim still taking zone damage. Banner will be available for pickup once more, but it is not going to be benefiting Shoreline Mafia in any way to really go for it, with other problems to deal with. No Name still hold this corner of the map, but right now, squad underneath them. This very well could be TSS, who we talked about earlier.
Yeah. I think it might indeed be. Shoreline Mafia is still just taking shots from all sides. I think that res really was... obviously, you want to be entering this last stage of the game with 3 members on your team, but damn, that put them in such a bad position to close out anything there. Black Hand have warmed up into this series today, and they are getting shots down. Still not an insane amount of kills across the whole team, but doing incredibly well for themselves. And they have a great position. That's what really matters, I think.
Top 7's good. They've got Horizon as well as this Bangalore to cover their entry into the next ring, but it is something I have to start planning for now, and I like the pings. Red actually highlighting a really good rotation for them. It's Chatavis Prime are the ones sitting underneath No Name, meaning that TSS are back at their original location. Bad Boys sat underneath Downed Beast as well, with Black Hand and TSS both looking in the same direction. Risen Rose come up behind Black Hand and are taking chunks out of them with the Peacekeeper. Flux sitting very low. Does get taken down on the way by Rampage, and Black Hand still have 2 up in the face of that push from Risen Rose.
Voltic manages to get a shield battery off and survives that fight just about, but gonna have to completely disengage as Bad Boys just cleans up everyone left up there. Oh man, Blackhand, it just didn't work out for them. If they could have held off that first attack, it might have worked, but no, Voltic is going to be taken down in the end. No Name now trying to fight off members from down below. Still, I mean, the way they play, I can't believe No Name is still just, they seem to defy the odds.
Good time on the third party from Bad Boys, who came up onto the downed beast, and No Name sniffing out somebody here. Are looking for these little margins underneath them, but not going to find anything just yet. Twinkling of the Toes takes out LTC Esports, and we're into the top 3, where No Name still have made it yet again. I talked about Stormtroopers as our consistent placement team, but No Name, with their veritable aggression, have managed to replicate these results once more. Bad Boys also making it into the top 3, however, and they have the chance to replicate their victory from game number 1.
Shadamus Prime have set up what I can only call a fortress down here in the water, just trying to hold this position. No Name, obviously, I feel like have the better position at this point, just holding down on top of them. They don't see any need to drop down and start that fight. Obviously, they're a member down, maybe 2 members down if DenPride gets a little too out of position. Chickas is just trying to hold everyone away. They can get those shields, but oh man,
Bad
that's
Boys
good.
know. They know it's just 2 people up here, and if they can take this high ground, they could very well win the game. Funk, the first one to dive in right now, does need help from the rest of the roster. RE45 are not crazy as that weapon may be. 64 to open things up. Still does require backup. Rambro and Newman coming over the side right now as the fight breaks up on top. They want to force this squad back. No Name. Chicks already knocked, and looking forward to this third party that could come in. The Bad Boys are going to look down on Shadamus Prime. It is now a Bad Boys game as they isolated this squad, recognizing the weaknesses below, and ended up putting themselves in perhaps a position to win the game. DenPride's going to be shot at by Shadamus Prime. Rembro's still looking for the finish on this and maybe able to get it. No Name are down. We're into the top 2, and we've got a turboed up Devotion on the high ground. I cannot think of a worse circle of hell for Shadamus Prime to be in.
This is so good from Bad Boys. They recognized the best possible time to take a good position, and now they've got that position. They can just hold it. They can just sit there and wait for the zone to push out these last few members. They have to start moving around from this one. They've got that Newcastle, obviously, fortification up below them, but obviously, you know, Bad Boys aren't even, they're not sweating. They just set up here. We'll give it 10 seconds or so, I feel like.
I mean, they really don't need to. This spot...
Yeah, they don't need to do anything.
Nobody can climb on them. They're fine. The real game here is going to be who's left with the last little bit of playable area. It should, and I say should, be Bad Boys, but there is a chance that they have to drop down and actually take this fight honest to God, as underneath them, Shadamus Prime are going to be tanking zone for just as long. It's going to come down to a heal off unless Bad Boys do something about it. Already retaking zone damage, so Slacking can start that heal up early is a good idea. And the Bad Boys, waiting to drop down right now, are going to be looking for knocks. A single knock could be it. It's likely they send Funk down as the zone closes in, but they got to wait.
Here we go. Could not get more
Funk's going down. Watch it as he takes down that member. The one that was healing up. This is a Bad Boys win. They don't have to do anything. Bad Boys, let's go. Play that heal off so well.
Oh, it's just so perfect from Bad Boys. That's just beautiful.
Okay,
anyway.
Here's the thing. I know I got really excited about that, and I am going to stand by it, because we've already seen so many end games have question marks around them. We've seen teams die in the zone. It's a matter of practice. The fact that Bad Boys know how to play that very niche end game situation and come out on top, Dandro, I find myself against Slackjawed.
Hey, you know, as the famous 80s song says, bad boys, what you gonna do? Well, it's lose that endgame heal off. That's what's gonna happen. Insane. I mean, the RE45 coming out, we're just seeing how much impact a weapon like that can have. I mean, when they kind of pushed up to that high ground in order to kind of take that back, and we saw him just absolutely melt with it, I was like, oh, this is gonna be where things get really good. And I was glad to see that they were kind of play that smart. I think they had so much time that they could have just absolutely flown down at the team below them, but they play it smart, they play it patiently, and obviously it pays out at the end of the game. What a great map 3 and a great wrap up to Storm Point that we have. Bad Boys, of course, doing well. We're gonna have the scores here in a little bit, of course, after the replays. But Twiggy, I'm gonna look at you. Talk to me through, what do you think maybe was like one of those defining moments for Bad Boys for being able to clutch that one on up?
I think a big part was that push straight up onto Blackhand, up on the top of Down Beast. That was massive. It started to get them just that momentum in terms of kills. They hadn't really done that so far in the game. Obviously, they've got a good amount of Evo boost and got all their shields all the way up. But that was the start of their kind of momentum in terms of getting kills and moving in and getting good positions and taking good positions from other teams, crucially. Not just, you know, getting there ahead of another team. They were getting there on top of teams that had better positions than them. They were taking it away, taking advantage of their better positioning, winning the fight, and then moving to another team that had a good position and going, I'll take that from you too. You know, the colonizers of Apex here.
And this fight from Ecos boys was so great to be able to watch. So that early aggression, but then we kind of saw the third parties come in. I mean, I feel like this really set the pace of this map, Dio.
It did, and I say it again, Stormtroopers shouldn't have moved here. We know we have all the extra information, but when you see Bad Boys rocking up on something, Stormtroopers haven't made their names being as heavy fraggers as Bad Boys. When you see a fight happen that quickly, whether it is them or not, you gotta pay respect to it, and Stormtroopers now multiple times have failed to pay respect to the other squads that have also made it into the finals alongside them, and it's biting them.
I feel like we're kind of seeing a little bit of a shakeup. There are some of the teams that we called out at the top of the show that are kind of showing out here, and some of them, they're kind of surprisingly struggling. I know personally I was glad to see Blackhand was kind of able to have that nice little kind of regain, it seemed like, in map number 3, and I'm really going to look forward to see where they show up on the leaderboard, both just from that game and overall. But yeah, here we go. We can kind of see some of those final moments. This was another one. This fight kind of up on top of that rock as well from Risen Rose. I mean, I feel like it was kind of up to Risen Rose to be able to hold that, and they just kind of, I don't know, it looked awkward. It looked weird.
It did. It's hard to balance exactly who's jumping up there and when. And I give credit to Bad Boys, much as Twiggy shouted out earlier. Their timing on that third party was really solid. I also want to call out something that may go underappreciated here, but TBA kind of sided the winners of this game really early on with their pick off onto No Name, who ultimately couldn't hold that high ground because they had just had 2 people.
And you can see the standings from that match here. I mean, Twiggy, when we're kind of looking at it, what's surprising? What's jumping out to you? Because we have a couple of teams here they've been doing well, and well, this map 3 they kind of lost. We have a couple other teams that have seemingly kind of maybe found their footing as we get ready to move into the next 3 maps.
I mean, I've got to give a shout out, obviously, to No Name, who have they're the standout team in terms of just the way they play for me in this lobby. It's just completely different from everyone else. Whereas everybody else likes to get aggressive and they like to push in and get kills and piggyback off of those kind of squad wipes that they get. No Name just likes to sit still and kind of deal with what they have. And we saw that in the first game. They fortified up the last zone pretty much immediately in the game. They just got all the intel they needed, moved in, did everything they could to get into the top 3. And again, they have made their way into the top 3 just by kind of getting a good position and then just trying to work with what they have in their inventories. And it's impressive to me that they can do so consistently on this one. Maybe it's not going to be enough points to stay in that top 3 in terms of overall, especially as Bad Boys are going to drop 16 kills and get 28 points for themselves. It's kind of difficult to keep up with that. But it is impressive to me that they can keep doing that.
I mean, consistency is always key, but we have the overall leaderboard. Let's go ahead and take a peek. And, well, look who has moved up. It's Bad Boys, top of the boards, 56 points from them. And they're starting to gain a lead over LTC Esports, sitting there with a 44, and No Name maintaining that third place spot with 40. But Dia, look at this cliff between 3rd and 4th. Risen Rose, Shoreline Mafia kind of sitting there in the 4th and 5th position. Very similar scores. This is kind of not where we expected to see them.
It's the cliff of consistency. Bad Boys, I mean, they having won 2 games, of course, are going to be at the top. But with LTC and No Name right behind them, those squads have been in the top 3 every single time. Even LTC falling out a little bit earlier this time around still is collecting not just an incredible amount of placement points off of that placement, but being able to pick up kills along the way as well, where No Name have this defensive aggression where they set up in your face. It's LTC quite literally press W on you and find out whether you can take the fight or not, and that's really working to their favor. The tune of the gap here is really that play style that you were talking about before, Twiggy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Twiggy, kind of talk to me about this play style and how it's kind of like shaken out here, on this kind of end of the map 3 as we kind of get ready to maybe shift gears as we kind of leave Stormpoint and we get ready to come into World's Edge.
I think it can still work in World's Edge perfectly well. I think there are a lot of locations that are easy to kind of get your claws into quickly. And I think we've established now that the rest of this lobby just aren't the kinds of teams that want to get involved in that kind of fight. And if you have one team that has a completely different playstyle to everyone else, and we've established that it works well enough to get them into the top 3 at least once, it's going to keep doing that. They're going to keep staying in that top 3. And maybe that doesn't mean that they get to the top of the leaderboard for this finals, but it's going to mean that they're going to rack up points. They're going to rack up a lot of points towards getting into that top 18 of teams that are going to qualify through points for the qualifiers of the Pro Series as next series, which is so much more. I feel like if you're going to play for that one and you're actually going to prove that you can do it, that's almost more impressive than just going ham in one day and getting the finals won in one go for me.
I totally agree. I feel like being able to kind of show out in sort of that macro picture really proves a lot for you as a team. So with that, we got map 3 wrapped up. That's our 3 games of Stormpoint. And now we get ready to move on to World's Edge. So we're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to welcome back in Melcrit and Porosaurus as we take our first map on World's Edge.
And Poro, we are on to World's Edge, and we have 3 more games to go for some of these squads to prove they have what it takes, or really just to see if there are any Titan Slayers that can take the throne from Bad Boys right now.
I mean, Bad Boys just kind of on one today, and I mean, 3 games in, what are they sitting on? 64 points. That's obscene. I mean, what Funk was doing with that RE45 was just disgusting. I feel violated just watching it, honestly. But but here's the thing, man. Traditionally, you go back and you look at these teams on the map swap. The teams that have done really, really well on one map usually start to fall off a little bit on the second map. So definitely got eyes on Bad Boys. Definitely got eyes on LTC to see if they can kind of keep that consistency going from one map into the other. And then also looking at teams like Blackhand and who was the other one that I was kind of like, oh man, there was another team that did really, really well. I think Stormtroopers actually did well on World's Edge last week to the tune of I think Blackhand got almost 50 points in 3 games last week on World's Edge. So they might be able to turn things around here. But Bad Boys, they it's not over. I mean, that was a beautiful game 3, a beautiful first 3 game set, but it's not over. They still got work to do.
And it looks like all of the squads are going to have a fair shot at life this time around, as there are 0 contests on the map. We've got 1 squad per POI. There will be no contests. In fact, there's a little bit of space open on the map too. So I expect some clean macro now, honestly, because I think that's one of the big differences, right, between the Stormpoint and World's Edge. World's Edge has been studied to death. I mean, this has been our competitive map for so long before Stormpoint got added into the mix. And taking a look at the map, you can see that a lot of squads are already starting to make their rotations. Again, whether these squads know how to play their POIs, whether they can utilize their compositions to be effective on this map, that's going to be it's going to make a massive difference. One team I do want to mention that is sort of fallen off in the middle of the leaderboards besides Blackhand is actually Team Diverge, who I know does have a lot of experience on the map, has pretty strong game plan on the map, and I'm hoping that they can show it here because they have a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah, it's definitely a first 3 games to forget for Diverge, but so we did see some signs of life there as we see TBA, another team that's got a little bit of work to do. Not too bad in the first couple of games. Actually, game 2, 14 points was the highlight, but sitting on 17 points, 6th place overall going into the second half of the day, you feel pretty damn good about it, especially if you can win this fight to start things off. And it looks like they started off with a knock already. Another shot's come through. There's a crack. Not going to get the knock just yet. And now the third party's coming in. TBA taking a little bit too long.
Yeah, I think the engage there was just a tad too slow, so they're able to take up, it looks like maybe 1 kill there, at least 1 knock from what they were able to find. But of course the rotations are coming in swift, they're coming in fast, and plenty of squads have to go through this choke as we see the ring pull. We saw it on the map there briefly, but there are already it's about to be 4 teams on this choke, as I believe No Name is also rotating their way in. So, or excuse me, Stormtroopers is rotating their way in. So this is about to get real busy. TBA is going to stick around and find these kills. They have to find them quick.
It looks like they're actually electing to bail out now. The key did get a knock, but I think they realized that the situation a little bit too hot, especially long range. You don't want to try to go and crash that and get involved in another fight and then just get third party. You know exactly how that thing's going to play out. So I think the good on them for just getting on out of there, and they actually will get credit for the kill as well. So 1 point picked up, and Ranch on Spaghetti sitting on whites, but have a nice little spot for themselves to call home here.
Yeah, they're going to hold up for a little bit. You can see there on the top left that their beacon information has already given them just enough for them to commit to this building, at least for the time being. They have the Valkyrie to use a little bit later on, but they also have one of those compositions that we mentioned at the beginning, that Watson and Crypto is definitely a team that you want to get pretty dang, a team composition, excuse me, that you want to get pretty dang deep in a zone as early as possible. So they have that ring information, and they're going to try and make use of it to the max. I could foresee them definitely ulting in here sooner than later, or potentially just walking in. They might not know that Godly Daddies is looking down in their direction.
Yeah, Godly Daddies winning the tower lottery this time around. They get to go up there first to arrive, and they'll be nice and set up here to check back in with Ranch on Spaghetti. Still looking a little deprived here as far as shields go, but staying alive as there's action going on around them, and it looks like they don't want any part of it. It's just to make their way through here. Gobble leading the way.
Yeah, and they're leading their way potentially onto that Team Diverge squad that is looting up on the north side through the train tracks. Another squad that, again, has just had they've had a lot of very good showings so far on the first 3 maps. TSS definitely has the pedigree to have a really good game, but got to make this rotation first, and it's not being made easy by this team across the way. And they are eating shots right now, or they're just getting bullied left and right, and they're not even walking towards zone. They want this fight.
They sure are, and they sure do. Hambino going to be the first one to send it on up with the Horizon as the shots come through. No knocks to be found just yet. We'll pull back just slightly, and that's actually going to leave Blur Flavors out on an island. Messiah has a little bit of an angle here, needs that support from Hambino to try to maybe go for this res. And it looks like they're not even going to worry about it. They're just going to go for the push. Shots come through, one going down. Hambino the last one up, but Hambino will get the job done. And now should have time to go for this res.
Yeah, and Torkaholics now is going to try and hold on to this one. They're going to swing in. The hip fire is coming through for Curiosity, but will it be enough? And they're actually going to finish it off with the charge rifle, hip fire, and TSS off of that push. A little bit too sloppy, a little bit too slow, is eliminated.
That's always the way, isn't it? It just feels like if you take fights, you have to have that timer going on in your head and know exactly how much time you have to finish this off. If it takes longer than 20, 25 seconds, 30 seconds at most, it might not be worth it here. As we see, No Name will finish this off, get a little bit of a loot infusion.
Yeah, they're going to pick this up. They're going to feel pretty good about it. And you can see up, again, referencing the map up on the top left, it does seem to be pulling pretty dang hard over towards this northeast side. So a lot of these squads that have already taken up residence up here near the northeast are going to be pretty happy, and especially these zone teams. I mean, look at this. Again, bunker composition. They're already setting themselves up for holding out teams and for holding the spot for late. Echoes boys trying to do much the same. They don't have the Newcastle here, but they do have this Crypto to stave off some of the pushes and, of course, keep hitting Beacon.
You can see that Stormtroopers, I mean, like I said, last week, they had a lot of success on this map and presumably operating with that same comp, so they know how and where they want to play with this lockdown comp. And right now they are pinned, as you said, up in that northeastern side. Now they do have a couple of teams right on top of them, but for the most part, they should be able to hold that line fairly easily with that Watson-Newcastle combo. Everybody else still starting to make their way in, but still a lot of teams off in the southwest that have to make their way in. Now, as we say, Stormtroopers once again trying to hold it, and never mind, they're going to get eliminated just like that by Echoes boys.
Echoes boys had no interest coexisting there. They swing down, presumably off the back of that Crypto ultimate. And this is the problem. Again, Newcastle, it's kind of a bit of a illusion of safety. It doesn't make these spots all that much more playable. And in fact, you're really relying on those Watson fences to do a lot of the work. So Echoes boys, great timing there on the fight. They have just enough. In fact, that will also help them out a little bit, the shreds that are left, so that they can avoid these random pop shots coming in from the north side. So Echoes boys will stabilize with 3 KP in their pocket.
And more fighting to be had here as another push coming through. They got to get in. They got to get in. They're getting shot from the backside. They've got to make a decision about if they want to actually push this. TBA, it's like they're going to hold it down for the time being, waiting for the inevitable push that may or may not be coming. The Watson already set down, ready to go, and it looks like they're just going to hold the line. And whoever was thinking about attacking, maybe choosing the better of it.
Yeah, I'm not feeling too great about it. TBA, another squad that we've really had our eyes on for a little bit because they have a chance to really break open this leaderboard if they can find some success on World's Edge. And again, that map swap can mean a lot for some of these squads, and this composition is something that I'm definitely a pretty big fan of. I think it serves a lot of different situations. They have the defensive capabilities of the Watson. It's a little bit more versatile, but Risen Rose with a slightly more aggressive composition, actually on the losing side of their aggression right now.
Yeah, Fluxon just got kind of bodied there a little bit. That should be a fairly easy res, but maybe a little bit off on the timing of the push. As now the push is coming back, the Arcstar is going to come out. Asuras, they want all of it. As Goody is Goody's trying to make the push up in. Asuras, they're just kind of toying with them at the time being. Risen Rose holding on right now, but how much longer can they do this at the top?
And they had to watch their flesh. How do you see there? Asuras is already starting to hit those medkits and those syringes. Thalas will die to zone here if he doesn't get one off himself. And now Asuras is looking to commit to this push. God of Goody, though, eating a lot of damage. It seems like they walked straight into an Arcstar. Now back to a 2v2 situation. Make that a 2v1. Nifty aims. Last one standing for Asuras. No. And Risen Rose defends. Risen Rose holds. And Risen Rose now has a very uncomfortable rotation to make. But at the bare minimum, they'll do it with 2.
Oh man, the Risen Rose, they looked like they were just lined up and ready to go, and now Blackhand, they smell blood in the water, and that will be it for Risen Rose. But what a hold against Asura from Risen Rose. I mean, there's only so much you can do as, yeah, Blackhand, always going to be one to let him know, Griffin. I don't know how much you exactly did in that fight there, Griff, but you know what? Take your win.
Yeah, sometimes if you're not, getting the points, you have to get the brownie points, the points that count in your heart and the friends you made along the way, something. In any case, like Blackhand there actually has cleared out a significant portion of that map now, which is very critical for them. In fact, they are the very last team over on this western side, but you can see their Bad Boys might be the next team that they are potentially going to have to contend with, and we know what Bad Boys can do with some pretty good positioning. Even with bad positioning, they've been able to fight themselves out of third-party scenarios. They've been able to fight themselves through some pretty bad rotations. So I would not be surprised to see them do exactly that when Blackhand walks in. Team Diverge, another squad that's, again, starting to find a little bit more footing on World's Edge, and I'm excited to see this. But we talked about it in the previous game. That mid-game fight, that last fight that they have to win to get into that late-game spot, sometimes that's the one that's really costing them their game.
Well, here comes the push as Bad Boys are starting to make their way out. They're going to run face first into Funk, and Funk's the only one kind of looking up in that direction right now. So It might be trouble here for Bad Boys. They're going to have to call over for support. Looks like Rambo is going to make his way up, and yep, you've been right behind him. But Funk, they knew.
Oh,
they just
no.
knew that this was coming.
They have the seer, so they know, but that might not help them all that much. Funk already finding some nice damage with that R301. The scan is out as well, so they have all the information they could possibly need here. And there is no Valkyrie ultimate, so Blackhand has to run for the hills and actually run around the other side of this mountain, where they might be walking into the waiting arms of vengeance. That is, if Bad Boys lets them off.
Oh man, this is a bad place for Blackhand to be, as they're doing their best to try to make it. Looks like Yatso will, okay, they'll find at least a little bit of solace here inside the zone to get healed up, get back up to full strength before turning their attention back over. As you said, Vengeance just off to the south. It looks like Bad Boys has pulled away from this and are more concerned with their own fight. Godly Daddies trying to hold the line here in the center as they are getting crashed upon.
Yeah, and that push looked a little rough, actually getting shot in the back there by a charge rifle that might not even be from the squad that they're fighting right now. Nice little cheeky angle by Eternal to try and make something work, but Shoreline Mafia will clean that up. And that actually was, I think, just a point-blank charge rifle from Zednim, so good on them to be able to defend. But a squad that's not having as much success defending right now is going to be Ron and crew. Echoes boys just tuning up the aggression right when they need to, it seems. They've wiped one squad underneath them. Can they make it two?
Well, Shoreline Mafia has been showing off the mechanics here so far today. Can they get some points to go along with it? As Echoes boys will clean up. And let's see, Echoes boys still on the hunt, looking for that last one. 4-3 Linear gonna have to stop down, heal up a little bit. Quispy doing the same thing. Pupski needs to do the same as well. They're just holding on to the northeast. Two teams, Draco's the solo involved here. Another team right on top. Draco's looking to just escape here from Buff Pathfinder.
Oh, and there it is, up in the kill feed. Venom Gaming, actually, I believe the team that has taken out Team Diverge once again. That last fight that they needed to win to transition into this late game is not one they are unable to defend. I wonder if their composition is something that has to be tuned here, because that is just almost the exact same thing we saw in Stormpoint. They were holding a building that had potential for playing into the next part of the game, and they just can't win. They can't defend it out, so they'll be sent back to the lobby to maybe do a little bit of homework while they can, waiting for game number 5. And I think we're just going to see a lot of the usual suspects here, except one very big and pleasant surprise for us is definitely going to be Blackhand here in the top 10.
Well, he said coming in that they have had particular success on this map, and it looks like that is going to continue as they work on this south side. Now, they do have Vengeance just off to their west, but it's just a two-man squad, so I doubt Vengeance will be too terribly interested in looking. In fact, they're just going to go ahead and Valk on out.
Especially as a duo.
Yeah, that's not a fight you really want to take there. They'll just try to make their way a little bit farther north, but they might be running just underneath Stunny and company, and yep, the shot's coming through from Stunny. Do a little bit of damage there.
And here's Echoes boys once again involved in a scuffle, except finally they seem to be on potentially the losing side of this. Crispy Bacon does end up going down, and actually looks like they had a bit of an advantage there, at least for a moment. And there it is. No Name is eliminated, but they will fall most likely for taking this fight. They're still alive for the time being. Buff Pathfinder will hold from above, and most likely going to hold out the last member of Echoes boys. But the damage has been done, and I'm sure Echoes boys will go back to the drawing board very happy with the amount of KP that they've managed. But there's plenty of fighting to be had yet, as Rambo actually had to get revived from the dropship. He just arrived, and now they're in a 3v3 situation with Venom.
Oh, the shot's coming through for Buff Pathfinder. Dracos, can he win the fight? Oh, he's hiding behind. No. He's going to go down there in the end to Blackhand, who is very much in trouble here. Yatso, the last one up, as check back in with Shoreline Mafia, slowly making their way up from the north. They've got a little bit of a problem on their backside with, or actually just in front of them. Yeah, that's going to get cleaned out. LTC Esports finding themselves in the late game once again, but Shoreline Mafia proving to be too much.
LTC, our game 2 winners, are knocked out, so they won't see their first win on World's Edge for game number 4. Meanwhile, Shoreline Mafia is definitely a team that is hunting for it right now, and a team that is very decorated in terms of Challenger Circuit experience. I mean, looking at Stunny and Zednim, absolutely just running things as Wingman season. Very, very strong team. Very, very scary set of players, but there's a couple other squads that are certainly vying. They're fighting for that claim. They're fighting for that first win today, TBA being one of them, and it looks like Bad Boys has managed to fight off Venom up on the north side. So 5 squads looking decently healthy with the exception of Blackhand, who's going to have to play this out as a duo. Oh, no, I think they might have gotten their other member up, so that's a full 3.
Yeah, Blackhand somehow, some way in the late game managing to get everybody back on their feet here. 3 kills for Bad Boys, 7 for Blackhand. They have the east side to themselves right now. Shoreline Mafia with 7 kills in control of the south, but it looks like everything's going to be moving off to the north, where Bad Boys and Venom are currently waiting and staring each other down, deciding if they want to actually do something about this. Venom, well, they've got that Watson Newcastle. I doubt they're going to be pushing into anything.
Yeah, and in fact, they have zone, they have to hold, but again, it begs the question, will this Newcastle hold? Is a Watson gen up ready for them to defend with it? And it looks like time has run out, and so has the space that they can play with. TBA taking to the skies, untold, excuse me, from Venom going very low, and Pure also getting full shields cracked, and now the engage coming in from Blackhand, one of the scariest 3v3 teams in the lobby, and Venom Game is doing their best to hold out using that passive from the Newcastle. Will it be enough? It's looking close.
Pure, you're the last one, trying to give him the okie doke. Not going to work, though, as Blackhand will finish it off. They should be able to get Griffin up. It doesn't look like anybody is near them right now. It looks like Shoreline Mafia and Bad Boys. Now, Shoreline Mafia has that high ground, but they've got the horizon to work around. They're going to spot them out. They'll take the shots in. One knock comes through, and they look for the rest of that team. So far, so good. No knocks taken so far. Cursed is very, very low, though. They've got to make the push in. Shoreline Mafia, now they're getting third parties as Blackhand comes in. 12 kills now for Blackhand, and they are looking to wrap this one up and return to favor on their map of choice. Can they get the W? Yes, they can. Blackhand is your game 4 winner.
And finally, the expectations being answered. So much pressure, so much coming up behind the team for the second Challenger Circuit Finals, and they are starting to show that World's Edge might just be their map. They put a big Blackhand stamp on it for game number 4, and honestly, after seeing how many kills they were able to pick up, how many insane situations they were able to recover from, I'm not entirely surprised, but man, does it take a certain caliber of player to make that happen, Dandrew.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be extremely talented in order to kind of bring that back, bring that one back. I'm excited. I mean, kind of, we were hyping up some of these teams at this top of the show and moving into World's Edge. They weren't really performing at the caliber we expected, but 2 of them, Shoreline and Blackhand, they're in that top 3. They battle it on out. I'm glad to see that they're starting to kind of make a little bit of that regain. But obviously, World's Edge, it's seemingly, nobody here is surprised. It's a different beast. Teams are playing it. Kind of new teams are finding success. Other teams are maybe kind of straggling a little bit, struggling to get kind of their footing and get going. I know, Mello, you said earlier, it feels like we're finally seeing kind of what teams know what they're doing and which teams don't. As we kind of talk about this first map, what teams do you kind of feel like they're finding their groove and they're really starting to kind of, hit the ground running?
I mean, Blackhand definitely one that we have to mention. It's not necessarily that the squads don't know what they're doing 100% of the time, right? It's about whether they're able to adapt to the lobbies as well. It isn't always the same game plan. It isn't always the exact same rotation, and of course the rings are never exactly the same. The pulls aren't ever exactly the same. So I think the teams that are able to adapt on this map specifically, of course, we have to shout out once again Bad Boys. Blackhand made it look really good. We had TBA that's finally showing up in this conversation too, which is really exciting because they're kind of on the cusp on some of those fights, but they didn't quite break through, and there we see a top 3 result finally. Beautiful stuff from them as well. I'm excited for a lot of these teams that are starting to wake up, but Blackhand, again, we're gonna keep touting them, I think, for the next couple of minutes because they're there's a lot of expectations behind that team, and they're showing why.
Yeah, and Poro, this game looked a little bit more of a higher paced game, I think, than we saw in those first 3 maps. Talk to me a little bit about kind of the pace of play here as we kind of had this first sort of set of maps happening.
It almost feels like a comfort thing, doesn't it? I mean, you look at a team like Blackhand. I mean, what they were doing is not, it's not a new thing. Like, it's not crazy. It's great timing. It's third party at the perfect time. It's picking your fights. It's making short work of them, and then being able to kind of get that full reset off after you're done. It almost feels like the only reason they can't do this on the other map, it's got to be a mental thing at this point, right? Like, or maybe just a comfort thing in general. Because like I feel like what we saw Blackhand do here, that can be done anywhere. Like that is just a good damn team.
I mean, for sure. I mean, look at the points they were able to nab. 14 kills, claiming that first place position. That's going to give them 26 points. But hey, guess who's right behind them? It's Bad Boys nabbing that total of 14 points. They came into this map set as top of the board, so they're looking to stay consistent. In Shoreline Mafia, there was that other team that we had kind of talked about. 17 points. This is respectable. Mello, I think this is where we're going to start seeing some of these teams start leapfrogging their way up the leaderboard map after map.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the squads that had that success on Stormpoint are really just starting to to some extent pray for the downfall of some of the better World's Edge teams, because truly you start to see that sort of separation. Some of these squads that have spent a little bit more time on the map, some of the better map educated teams, I would say, are going to start to try and are going to start to float to the surface. And Battle Macro can be incredibly punishing in World's Edge. So when you have a team that's very mechanically talented, which obviously those top 3 teams are in that conversation. We've got Blackhand, who is a very scary 3v3 fighting team. We have Bad Boys, also a very scary team, and Shoreline Mafia, very, very scary team. So all of this is going to get more difficult, and every bad rotation is going to be that much more punished.
Well, let's see how this is going to shake down the overall leaderboard as well. Look at this. It's kind of sticking the same a little bit, but the one thing to shout out, it's a Blackhand who has now made their way into 4th place, looking at that first place from a distance, but I think it's possible. Poro, as we look at some of the other teams that are on this and some of the movement, I don't know, what's popping out to you?
I mean, look, it's great that Blackhand found some success finally on this first map. Now, remember, again, last week they hung 50 in 3 games on World's Edge. So, I expect to see them continue on. But the problem is Bad Boys, they put up 15 as well. So when the team you're chasing is still finding success now, and that's across the 2 different maps, they're finding it even after the map switch. Like that's not a good sign if you're chasing, right? Like you're kind of hoping that Bad Boys start falling off a little bit here after the map switch, but it's not happening, at least not yet anyway. And LTC also finding themselves up here. And I got to tell you, man, it really feels like we have not seen Shoreline Mafia get the points that are deserved for the performance that they've been putting in so far today. Shoreline Mafia has been playing much better than a team with 38 points, I gotta say.
I totally agree. It seems like every time we cut over to them, they're taking these crazy fights. They're somehow kind of finessing their way out of them. It looks like they're about to get fully eliminated, and somehow they manage to come back and play this sort of regain. So I'm hoping, obviously that map 1, it shows that they're maybe a lot more comfortable on World's Edge. Who knows what they can do in maps 2 and 3, but I think you hit it right on the head. Bad Boys are solidifying their spot at the top of the leaderboard, being the most consistent team thus far. So what we're going to do, we're going to head to a quick break, say goodbye to Mellowcrit and Porosaurus here for a hot second. We'll get Dia and Twiggy back on in here as we get ready to drop into map number 2 of World's Edge. Series Challenger Finals number 2. We're bringing back on Dia and Twiggy. What an electric map number 1 when it comes to World's Edge. We're seeing some teams find their footing and really just kind of start showing out a little bit. So as you get ready to head into map number 2, Twiggy, I'm going to look to you. Who was really impressing you off of that map 1, and who are you looking to maybe kind of continue their domination?
Yeah, I mean, who really impressed me in that game? I wonder. No, Blackhand. I mean, look, there's some games you have where teams get involved all over the place, and it's you know, like there are fights going on all over the map, and then it kind of moves in towards it. Blackhand just ran through everybody. That's what happened there. And sometimes the game is just one team runs through everybody, and it's very cool. And Blackhand, yeah, they had some moments where they were close to getting taken out by a team, but they have that kind of stability that they need to keep a hold of that game. That's what they did. I'm expecting to see more of that from them. Obviously, they seem very comfortable here on World's Edge.
Yeah, I think comfort is really the word that we're looking at for a number of these teams, but the map is ready. The players, they're dropping on in. So Dia and Twiggy, I'm going to leave it to you to break down this map number 2.
Thank you very much. For the last time, it's us two on the cast, and I mean, Blackhand are again, it seems like going to start well away from everybody else and then sweep their way through. So we'll see how the zone works for them on that one, but I feel like they're the kind of team that would like the zone to be as far away as possible so they can just have as much running time as they can have.
It's definitely what Blackhand are good at, and getting, I mean, if they want it, 3 POIs to themselves is the Esports Arena or Optic Gaming special of last split that also had them dominating in the Pro League. It's certainly helping Blackhand, but it isn't the only factor, especially when we consider the 3 teams that made it into the final zone last time. Bad Boys, Shoreline Mafia, and Blackhand all putting themselves in the top 3. I will say, Shoreline Mafia definitely having the roughest day of those 3, but still with an impressive performance on World's Edge. I'm looking to all of those 3 squads to replicate their performances because I do believe that the consistency is there.
Yeah, I think your prediction had a pretty slow start, but it's very much warmed itself up into these 3 teams are definitely teams that have started to show themselves off as being incredibly competent here, especially on World's Edge. It looks like that's the map where everybody is most comfortable, and teams seem to kind of warm up into the selves that we know them as.
Yeah, Echoes boys going to be playing a very different game this time around, as we'll get to see a different aspect in the mirror of themselves pushing down into that slightly southwestern side, especially relative to Climatizer. We are going pretty central, however. Not all teams will make it there. Shadimus Prime hoping that they can eliminate one right now, and Slacking's got a good angle to police anybody coming in to pick up Gobble or the respective banner. Everybody, of course, getting the opportunity to guard this if they would like to, but Shadimus Prime specifically, I suspect may move on to try and get through Fragment earlier than everyone else.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. The way this zone is landing all the way up to the north could be a good idea to get there quickly. Oh my god, no, they move in, and is just going to take down Chalice there. There was no sweat there whatsoever. No name, no sweat, no I don't know, no assault rifle, but the R99, the triple take seemed very much good enough.
So somewhere, Ranch on Spaghetti have their last member, Clankbot, running around, and I don't know where Clankbot went, because
let's
from No Name to Fragment, it's just not that far. So I don't. Maybe he went into Geyser. Oh, maybe he's coming back. That actually could be it. We'll wait to see if we drop down to 19 squads soon, because that would be the sure indicator. Eating flatline bullets on white shields certainly isn't going to be the healthiest thing for you to do. And with No Name pushing up here once again, I think they are going to find this kill, and it likely will be us. Missing Ranch on Spaghetti for... well, this entirety of Game 5. It is an honorable attempt to go back for the banner. I'll tell you what, I'd do it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a certain amount of camaraderie that you need to have there. And, yeah, fair enough. Good. We like to see it. I think it says a lot that we can see a play that we know is objectively suboptimal and go, you know what, that's fine. Yeah, I'd do the same thing. It's because I acknowledge that you're better than me, so anything you do is, decent at the very least.
Yeah.
It's we're just shying away from the word bad at this point. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Tworkaholics, they started off a lot of games with very quick kills. It looks like they want the same thing this time. I think they're going to have a taste of their own medicine. It is Curiosity left, and we all know what happened to the cat and what happened to T-Breezy as well.
Only the car chewed through it. We've still got Curiosity ready to go on forward. Taking out that Cyril, does have to pop the reload, interrupts that for the shield bat as well. Could be caught with their pants down. Curiosity now eating shots from Thermal as well, is encountering more trouble. EMP's ready, but not going to be useful at this point. Shield swap's got to come in, and it's going to be the last couple digits of health as Tworkaholics get taken out by Risen Rose.
Wow, valiant attempt to keep that one up from Curiosity there, but the Risen Rose, they're back for some vengeance. They were one of the first squads that got violently demolished by Black Hand last map, and I think they want to get a little bit of momentum back in their favor. Sometimes when a team just runs over a whole lobby, you've got to avoid them and go for your own kills at that point.
Certainly so. We've got, actually, speaking of squad that ran over the whole lobby, Shoreline Mafia suffering at the hands of LTC right now. Both teams that do not shy away from fights, clashing elsewhere on the map as LTC, right here, do not seem to have anyone in their sight, so a long-range knock it must have been. They've got themselves positioned really well in Skyhook, and unfortunately, eating the EMP will have to expend a few resources to get themselves healed back up, but their focus has to be on the end game, and this end game does seem to be pulling us even further up to the north. I'd be very surprised if it goes countdown, but some teams are starting to put their eggs in that basket just in case.
Yeah, I think you can see the diversification of strategies here. That's a lovely sentence. That it rolls off the tongue actually quite well. I like that. Diversification of strategies. That a lot of these teams are employing as, you know, they distribute their way through the leaderboard. And now, how do we want to finish out the day? We've got 2 games left. We've got to get a certain amount of points. You can see teams towards the bottom of the leaderboard, they're starting to play aggressively. Teams towards the top are starting to play very conservatively. And you can see Team Diverge, kind of a mid-table team at the moment, are going to start to try and garner themselves some points by hunting kills here.
They were definitely a squad that people expected to have a bigger showing today as well. Nice smoke will allow for a quick res from Team Diverge, but now instead of playing offensively, they've got to sit back and play D because somebody's going to be pushing up on them. People recognize that this knock is a sign of weakness for Team Diverge, and the fact that Sleepy Panda is actually so split from the squad is a little bit concerning to me when they are one of those teams that, yes, haven't had a great day, but are expected to play with a little more restraint given the competitive experience that they have.
Yeah. Sometimes the game forces you into positions that you don't want to be in. At the moment, oh man, is Bursty going to figure out where these guys are? I think he knows. He knows it. Oh, yep, there we go. Buff Pathfinder are going to start up a fight here. Just trying to edge their way in towards the zone now, but they're being held up. Looks like aggressive plays. Again, Buff Pathfinder, they need points today, so why not? At this point, it's do or die. You either get your points for placements, or you get your win, and if you are still within a shot of getting that win, which most squads are still with these last 2 games, go for it.
Formerly the squad that many people would have known as Nightmare has now forced TSS into a very difficult position. I remind you, no Gibraltar, no Caustic, no effective defense of this area, and perhaps a Valcult going to be necessary, but impossible to use right now as they've got to dip and dive right underneath Countdown with very little resources left to them. Team Diverge actually jumping right on top and looking for these kills is going to get a fruitful scan for the moment and even pop the ult to get more aggressive.
Oh man. Looking for that. Oh no. Oh my god. I was going to say just runs into a spray of bullets, but somehow gets the knock the opposite direction. Team Diverge. Oh, what looked like a completely different kind of strategy for them. Looks like second nature as they go aggressive. Even more so. Messiah is not going to get away from them, and that's a beam as well.
A little bit of help from Bird, gets that knock at the tail end of it. Now it's Bird that gets to play aggro with this Bloodhound still in ult. Full information for him to be getting yet another kill for Team Diverge so far. Does back off a little bit as the ult expires, and even more squads are starting to show their teeth over towards Landslide, where we again have Buff Pathfinder, this time running up against Black Hand.
Yeah, that is one of the squads that you're going to be a little scared to take on, but Dracos deftly dodging the Seer abilities, is able to find a little bit of hard cover and might be able, to bring the fight, oh man, words, to Black Hand here, who I think have things to worry about on other sides as well.
2 games on World's Edge, and twice Black Hand has played a crucial part in the elimination of Riz and Rose. You got to imagine it is not by accident, as even Black Hand now backing away, recognizing that especially the height in Landslide, way too difficult to push, and given that it's outside of the zone, absolutely not worth it. You've still got plenty of time to go up until you put yourself in Skyhook, and that's the circle that we're really looking at, that a lot of teams have invested their time and Valkults to get positions in due to this end game. I'm actually taking a look at it right now, really liking the position of No Name as sat over in Market. We saw an end zone that looked almost exactly like this, that pulled into Market just in Carnage Cup maybe a few hours ago.
Yeah, No Name, they have a sixth sense for positioning. It feels like over the rest of the squads in this lobby. Maybe, the rest of the squads in this lobby can frag out as much as they want. No Name seem to be able to just keep up with them in terms of just positional play and just making sure that they find themselves in advantageous locations, at the very least. Everyone else is going to start to move in here, forced in towards each other. Once again, there's a lot of squads alive in this quite tight area. There's a lot of mountainous zones in towards this, northern area of the map, which means that there's not a lot of space to play with.
The long-range knock that we saw earlier, not really paying off too much, but Shoreline Mafia and Black Hand coming to a head over by Grandma's house. Black Hand are going to go through this choke right now, and Cursed could grab a cheeky flank if this fight goes slow. Stunny's going to be called over, I'm sure, to join into the action. Zednim is going to have to be careful as well. Black Hand could very quickly close this gap. Cursed coming over, Stunny pulled down. And it's going to be an isolated 3v3 between both of these two squads that made it to the end game just 20 minutes ago.
Oh man, 2 rocks to work with as cover, 2 teams, perfect, that'll work out. Black Hand are going to attempt to disengage, head towards the next zone. That's a good crack from Save Griffin. They can head out off the back of that one, as they're going to have to disengage either way. But this
solid tracking from Black Hand, you called Save Griffin, doing really well there, but Shoreline Mafia left wanting as they didn't end up actually starting that fight as they desired, backing off entirely. Black Hand get the chance to reset, but have attracted the attention of Team Diverge and are caught between, I would say, a rock and a hard place, but really it's just Team Diverge and Shoreline Mafia who both want to gatekeep them out of this zone. I will say Shoreline Mafia have other things on their agenda as we are pulling a little bit further into the west than they were positioned at.
Yeah.
And our spot may be open now.
Oof. Good shots from Sleepy Panda. I was just going to say, this zone scares me a little bit because look at that choke point. There's a southern hemisphere and there's a northern hemisphere here, and northern hemisphere seems to be where everybody wants to be. That's where all the hard cover is, but you've got to get through a massive choke point to get there from the south, and there are a lot of teams stuck on the south right now.
Black Hand continuing to be gate-kept as well. Shoreline Mafia did not rotate around the east into Skyhook. They've instead chosen to gatekeep these tunnels, forcing Black Hand to get onto the sniper tower. We know they should have the ultimate available from Voltic, but even getting in a position altogether to use this has already been difficult and cost them a lot of resources. Even now, getting out-angled as a reminder, Damage will cancel the Valkyrie ult, and they'll need vertical clearance to pull it off.
And as options get taken away from them one by one, they don't know now that tunnel has been cleared. Nobody's standing guard there anymore, but they don't know exactly how they can... Well, okay, yeah, you can just Falcon over the mountain. That'll work. beautiful. They do get away from that one. But yeah, as you can see here, everyone wants to be towards Skyhook, and you can see teams just moving all the way in. You can see everybody joining in on the fight right now.
Shoreline Mafia on the other side are still awaiting. I believe they don't know that the Valkyrie went off behind them because they are watching their backs pretty consistently. Around the outside, they've got these small fence lines to play, and taking a building, well, it would be nice, isn't necessary. The thing is, Shoreline Mafia, with plenty of firepower themselves, could very well do it. Nightmare coming in behind. Blackhand are on top. Shoreline Mafia are inside, and Chadamus Prime have found themselves in the middle of a very aggressive burrito of teams.
This is where we saw Blackhand wipe about 3 squads out of the last game. Maybe, I don't think they're in quite an advantageous position this time. They've had a tough time this whole game just moving around. At this point, they've been taking shots from all angles and finding it hard to really get anywhere. This time, it is them on the defensive.
There are a few too many squads around here to say that anybody's really in a good spot, because anyone who is, as soon as they take a fight, will be full Senton. That's the promise that everyone is making by stacking up in these buildings, and it's the thing that's really worrying me as we start to move towards next zone. A minute left. Blackhand should have access, especially if they can find one more ult excel to that Valkyrie pretty soon. Team Diverge, however, they won't be making it into the next zone. They were just taken out by the godly daddies.
And they've had such a good game so far in terms of the way they've switched up their playstyle that it's quite sad to see them taken out in the earlier stages of the late game. But Blackhand are going to fight their way out of this building. I didn't think they would go through it to get there, but hey, whatever works, works, and just spraying down all of this utility, spraying down the members. Maybe they can find a way through, but feels like maybe the path of most resistance for Blackhand is exactly what they want. It seems like what they wanted last game, and it's what they take this one, taking out Chadamus Prime.
Completely eliminated, and I'm still waiting on that third party. But Pathfinder, again formerly Nightmare, have now found themselves in a totally different engagement against Shoreline Mafia, and that we now understand as being the trigger pull. Hearing those shots and knowing that the squads around you were otherwise occupied, it is a big upset to take down the Shoreline Mafia now, and with TBA going down as well, we're whittled down to just 11 teams.
Yeah, the thing is now everybody is being pushed straight out of here, and there is not a lot of cover to work with if you are on a building that was not in this next zone. You're having to jump your way through, run your way through the streets. And I mean, there are teams that were nowhere near any of this. You can see skydiving in now. Stormtroopers are eliminated as they try to move further up to the north, heading towards these new buildings that have become the fortification of all these teams. Asura's firing down from up on high. They're safe right now in terms of positioning. It's everybody else that needs to push onto them, and Asura's are going to be thanking their lucky stars that they are here and not one of these teams that are moving all the way through.
Oh no, Funk's got an RE45 again. This has literally won them games today, and it's given them the confidence to take this route. We saw Blackhand pull a move like this earlier. Bad Boys are doing it now, and it will be one of the last buildings in zone. The last, of course, belonging in this case to Market, as No Name predicted so well earlier.
Again, Sixth Sense. I don't know what it is about No Name. They seem to just be able to get one up over everybody. Even if the fights don't come out in their favor in the end, Golly Daddy's taken out. As again, they try and move in here. A lot of shots find their mark. And Echo's boys are just going to try and move in and take out more, but they're going to pay the price for that one. Pubsky going down means that they're down to 2 members, and they will be able to get the res off, but can they stop this second res from going through? Weren't expecting them to be that close. The 4-3 Linear is just going to try and clean things up. In the end, Blackhand does get eliminated there, and that is just the difference it makes to be in a nice position to start off with, as opposed to Blackhand that game having to move the whole game.
Now, taking out Blackhand and Shoreline Mafia has opened things up again for the lads on your screen. The Bad Boys, who have once again push themselves into now the top 7 squads and eliminated yet another. More KP for them, height for them, really everything the bad boys could ask for except a spot in zone. And it's going to become extraordinarily evident in the next couple seconds as this is going to start to close in around them. And the bad boys will have to get creative as to where they're relocating. Looking at Market right now, it might be a send on to No Name, but who on earth is landing on them?
What is that? I am not sure that's a great idea. Funk has an RE45, and well, that's what's going to happen. That's what gets eliminated immediately.
Right. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm sure that bad boys were just as confused as we were, but now 3 KP the richer, I get the feeling they don't mind. And LTC, mirroring that same story, are just barely missing that last kill that was right next to them. Still needing to work on their rotation into the zone as well. They've got just this little bit of cover right now. Not an easy entry for Daniel, but gets right back in by tanking that little bit of zone. Venom facing off on the opposite end here are going to be making up part of our last couple squads, but the bad boys are the team that I'm keeping my eye on, because if they can find a win here, honestly, if they can find top 2 here, their position is undeniably going to be finishing in first today.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Venom, not really a team we've seen this game at all, managing to get their way into the top 5 squads just based off of good movement alone. I feel like if you're avoiding the sights of most of these teams that have nice positions in the ring, you're doing a good job already, but they really don't have much Evo Shield to work with whatsoever. Still one player on level 1 there, but it is just going to be the Mexican standoff here. No Name is just going to try and start the engagement. It's a shield break for them, but they do need to be careful about how they engage against a team with much better utility than them.
And Pride getting chunked and already having lost 1 here. Fight looks like it's going in No Name's favor, but against that RE45, who can never count him out. Funk gets shot in the back, though, and bad boys on an over-aggressive push do go out. No Name seem to join them, though, as LTC push this envelope forward, looking to take control of Market, that last remaining building. EMP going to be used to slow down any third parties, breaking down the defenses as No Name get taken down, and Venom bite the dust as well. LTC are in control, and they are not looking to give it up. Daniel jumps forward, taking out Pubsky, and it's going to be an LTC win, you have to imagine. Already, Dan Mantic wrapping around this corner with the car, almost finds the knock as well. McLovin with the last headshot takes him down, and LTC win game 5.
Oh, skin of their teeth. Let's be honest here. A little bit scary at the end, but got the job done. The third-party Masters managed to close things out, but that was a little bit spooky at the end. We'll call it that.
I respect not Daniel's move there. He went, you know what? I already EMP'd him. We've already won the fight. This is the last squad. I'm going to go for it. And everybody else sort of was along for the ride. Danjiro, I was holding my breath at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting with bated breath as well. I mean, LTC just kind of out of nowhere was just like, hey, what if we just like 3v3, 3 teams back to back to back? What if we just did that and then won the game? Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, let's do it. And that's exactly what happens. I'm along with the ride with you there, Twiggy, though, as they kind of like decided to push that last and final team. I was like, oh, is this the right play? Like, you know, I'm not an Apex aficionado like some of you, but I know a questionable play when I see it. And that was there. But hey, you know what? It obviously worked out for them. That's why they're here playing challengers and over on the desk, because they were able to get it done and come out on top. I think that's going to maybe shake up the leaderboards, especially with bad boys going down in 5th place. I mean, Dia, give me some of that high level kind of how you think maybe LTC maybe played that map a little bit differently, because they've been struggling a little bit. And maybe, map 5, that's a great map to find yourself in.
It is. I think that the Skyhook zone really lent itself to the way that LTC wanted to play the game, because in that specific POI, you're able to take isolated 3v3s a lot easier. We saw it happening a lot more across the map because third parties are so uncommon. We get the chance to take a look at some of that actually right now as we sort of transition over in the replays, but you'll notice that with the things like Blackhand taking their fight in the building just off to the south, that they were able to find 3v3s even in a situation they shouldn't have been able to, because Shoreline Mafia are also in a fight, and these sort of isolated fights really lend themselves to the way that LTC was approaching games even on Stormpoint.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Twiggy, in those later zones, we had many more teams in these later zones here finally in this map. And I got to lend it to the number of buildings that were around and able to be held, and teams were holding all kinds of different levels. When it kind of came down to those later zones where teams had to rotate, kind of building to building, how do you think that really kind of shook down? Do you think teams played that correctly, or was there anybody that kind of stood out to you that said, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think there were no standouts to me in terms of who decided. Like, I feel like there was a bit of a lottery going on in terms of like which building do we pick? Where do we think this last zone is going to come through? It ended up being market in the end, which meant that nobody had a good building. But towards that, the second to last rings and stuff like that, it really just came down to what building you threw all your eggs into, and in the end, the big names in terms of that were Bad Boys. They got a really nice building to work with. They had to move quite a bit, but at the same time, No Name had a really nice building to work with. It meant that they had a really nice placement. Maybe they didn't get on the kills so much until right up at the end, but there were teams that it does seem like No Name do again have this kind of sense for where they need to be positioned well before any other teams seem to have that. It seems to get them points consistently. They weren't in the top 3 on this one, but they definitely made it work for themselves really well, despite having kind of less less kind of pushing power.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make, especially when we look at these kind of placements and the total scores from that game. Bad Boys, it was slipping out from underneath them, but they still managed to score that 8 points. But I think the real kind of story here, Dia, is LTC with the 23 total points there. I think we might have the overall leaderboard ready to pull up here. Talk me through this, because I think this is getting a little bit closer than we might have expected.
I'm so on the edge of my seat. The fact that LTC have pushed themselves this close to Bad Boys, who, let us not forget, are basically a pro league team just making their way through in year 3, is shocking. And the fact that even more, they're just about 5 points off of taking this away is... I don't think I would have predicted it, especially based on LTC's previous placements. I mean, they are by no means a bad team, but LTC didn't even make the last Challenger Circuit final. We saw them last in preseason qualifiers, where they were good, but by no means dominant. This is a totally different squad that we're seeing, despite the fact that it's the same players.
Yeah, I mean, I love that they're kind of seemingly, they're coming in with a fight. They're not letting it go down just yet. I love that they're sitting here in second, right? We were kind of saying, hey, it's a little bit of a grind to get back up there to kind of, Paro was saying earlier, to really kind of be in that chase when that team ahead of you has such a large lead. Well, that large lead has been dwindled after that game, just because Bad Boys, really, they only put up those 8 points in LTC. They seemingly find everything. They find the placement points, they find the KP, and they are sniffing right on the heels of Bad Boys. A little bit surprised to see, no shuffle in there, kind of in that 3-4-5. I think it's safe to say that they have to have some sort of miraculous game here in the last final game of World's Edge here if they want to try and be in the running. So we're going to be looking at those top 2 teams as we get ready to head on to the last and final map of the night. Thank you, Dia and Twiggy, for all of the casting tonight. We'll have you back on a little bit later, I believe, but at least for now, we'll say goodbye. Stick around, though, folks, as we come back. We have map number 6 of World's Edge, brought to you, of course, by Melocrits and Poor Swords. made it through 5 maps, and we got 1 more to go to see who is going to be top of the leaderboards here as part of the Apex Legends Global Series Challenges number 2 finals. We got Mellocrit and Porosaurus back here to, of course, bring us the hype for this last and final map. Mello, I wanted to talk to you first because you said a great quote while we were watching that game in the green room, and it was around Funk, who you said was constructed alternatively. Talk to me about that, because that man was going off.
I mean, that dude is a beast. There's a reason why he held down #1 Pred for a hot second. There's a reason that that team is having so much success, in fact, that now they're facing down the possibility of a direct ticket to the Split 2 Pro League qualification, where I have a feeling that they could do pretty dang well if they continue playing like this. And of course, having that RE45 constantly in hand also doesn't hurt.
I feel like the guy had a magnet. It's maybe some sort of thing going on where he knows exactly which care package has an RE45 and is able to pick it up. But obviously that's going to help change the pace of play, a little bit. Poro, we were kind of talking, a little bit off the kind of off screen, that this was a much more reserved map compared to that sort of first map of World's Edge that we saw. Teams were kind of holding up a whole lot more and just trying to play for maybe placements a whole lot more.
Yeah, it kind of feels like everything's turned on its head with this one, but it's interesting because World's Edge usually, as you said, everybody knows it's way more known and well known, and everybody kind of knows how to play against it. But it's like two traditional things fighting back and forth here, right? Like traditionally, World's Edge is a little bit more slower, a little bit more thought out and methodical, but traditionally the last half of games are also the most wheels off crap you'll ever see in your life. So it's like the better halves of these guys are fighting back and forth here. And shout out to LTC, man, for making this last game pretty damn interesting, as Bad Boys only a 5-point lead.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier, right, about that lead, and how if you're looking towards it, it was going to be rough because Bad Boys, they were just playing so consistent, but LTC finally able to do it and clutch it on down. So here we go, map number 6 to see who will be taking it on home. Mello, Porosaurus, take it away.
Thanks so much, Dandro. And I am just ecstatic here. If there were ever high stakes for a final game, usually we get that symptom across BRs of that Game 6 NA, just the way sometimes these games go. But
it's still going to be that way, bro. I'm already calling it right now. It's Game 6. Like, it can't not be Game 6. Like, it's going to be wheeled off. Now, the question is, can Bad Boys and LTC, who's going to benefit off of that craziness?
Yeah, and it is crazy to think that they're this close. And one thing that I believe Dia mentioned while they were sort of transitioning off of that game was the fact that LTC did kind of benefit largely from the fact, and in fact, a lot of teams that are playing this game a little bit slower, they benefited from the fact that this zone in particular, the Skyhook zone, does often have quite a bit of room to work with. A lot of, once you get through the very difficult transition points, there's buildings that can definitely be co-inhabited a little bit longer, a little bit more extensively than others. You saw there right at the end. I mean, there were like 3 teams to each building, to each apartment building. So for them to be able to play it out, we did see the pace slow down a little bit. Curious to know what this zone ends up gifting us. But in any case, like we've mentioned before, I think sometimes the W key does get glued to the keyboard in some of these final games, but I'm sure Bad Boys and LTC are both really going to be thinking about how they're going to get every ounce of points out of this match.
Well, right off the bat, you can see the first circle is pulling away and going off down south. And that's gonna, I feel like that's gonna benefit LTC, because I feel like they're a team, at least from what I've seen so far tonight, they're enjoying kind of slow playing the early game, coming in from the edge, knowing that their backsides are clear, and just kind of having everything in front of them. I don't think that they like when the circle pops right on top of them and they have to worry about being surrounded on all sides. Now, they get away with it a little bit last game because of exactly what you said, the verticality of those circles that they were playing in, but this time around they get to do kind of a little bit of a different thing here, as we see Chadamus Prime scrapping somewhere. Where are they? I'm trying to see. Oh, it's Venom.
Yeah, and Venom is the team that they're looking at right now. Chadamus I think a lot of teams are going to be more than happy to take fights at this point, but Chatham is Prime definitely a team that can do it. They have, again, one of those competitions that's sort of built to take these fights. But Venom Gaming kind of has the polar opposite. They have a team composition that's just made to bunker up and hold, but we'll see if they have any success doing that as the push comes in. There is a bit of an answer onto Chatham is Prime, but Venom Gaming is wiped off of the final game on World's Edge. Can Chatham is Prime recover before a third party? We're about to find out.
Yeah, they've got to get on there quick. I mean, they've got Gyozi and Chickas way off to the north. It doesn't look like they're going to get that. Okay, so they got time to recover. Yeah,
Nice.
They're good. Nicely done there from Chatham is Prime. Two teams in Chatham is Prime and Venom that were kind of sitting on the lower half of the leaderboard. Maybe not so much of a great day here so far today, but a nice little rebound there for Chatham is Ranch on Spaghetti, trying to find a little bit of something here to be happy about at the end of the day. They are sitting in last place overall, and they are done as they get summarily executed by TSS.
Yep, and it looks like that last place position will be their final permanent home for this Challenger Circuit number 2 final. Though, again, got to put respect on all of the names that you're seeing in the lobby, because
Absolutely.
It is not easy. I mean, it is a colossal grind. Coming from a round of 32, there's literally just tens, hundreds of teams that are in this to fight for the same spot. To get here to the top 20 is definitely an impressive feat.
Oh, Shoreline Mafia finding themselves a little bit split up here, and they're going to pay the price for it. Curse TV, the last one up, trying to take something there, and they're going to go down. Echoes boys, really nice hold by them, and unfortunate there for Shoreline Mafia. They've had such a good day, but these last 2 games have been something to forget.
And looking at where this room is pulling, I like that from Echoes, boys. I like that they're pulling out a little bit of aggression. When you're able to find KP when it's going to be clean, you have to take that opportunity. Team Diverge, another team that sort of struggled in some of their final transitionary fights to that late game, are taking a fight here for much the same reason, though I think the positioning is not going to be quite as free. There's quite a few teams that are sitting up on that chokehold to the north of Lava Siphon, and Team Diverge has to clean this up quick. Again, that timer is ticking. They're picking up kills, they're picking up knocks, but they have to do this cleanly, and they have to stay healthy while they do it.
Yep, they're keeping the movement going, momentum, pushing into this last player, and I believe that's from No Name, who's quietly been having a hell of a day here today. Extremely consistent. 5 games in and 4 double-digit point games for No Name here. They haven't had that one just big game like LTC and Bad Boys have, but they have been very, very good here, very consistent throughout the day. Good enough for number 3 is Bad Boys. They're involved in a little bit of a scrap of their own here, but it looks like they should be able to hold strong, not have to worry about a crash coming in just yet. Funk, oof. I mean, Funk is just, he's a highlight reel today.
Oh, absolutely. And just showing why this team, sometimes we see teams in these qualifiers that, and a lot of instances, really shouldn't be here. They probably should be already fighting it out with the big boys. But of course, with a reduced team format in Pro League of only 30 teams, it's teams like these with very talented players, when they don't have the right kind of success in those preseason qualifiers, they have to, I guess, rain terror a little bit on these T2, T3 teams that are just trying to scrap their way towards their first big challengers finish. So Bad Boys right now holding it down, probably going to keep just menacing teams that keep walking up, infringing on their territory right now. Risen Rose seems to be interested in doing exactly that, infringing on the territory here right outside of Lava Siphon.
Yeah, Risen Rose, another team that kind of had our eyes on coming into today, but not a terrible day, but an average day overall. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get them into the fight for first, but maybe taking out Twerkaholics here, get a little bit more points, feel a little bit better about things, as Dr. Magic just barely gets behind the hardcover.
And no drone here that was destroyed, so Curiosity will not be able to utilize that EMP. It looks like Risen Rose may be able to recover,
third party.
but they're actually being helped out a little bit as the third party's coming in from both Pathfinder. Slight shield advantage onto both squads now. Does Pathfinder have the right information to know that there's a squad to their right who could potentially angle them out? It looks like they're going to play this a little bit more patiently. Again, Game 6 restraint, Poro? Is that what we just witnessed?
I'm just as confused as you are. They're still continuing the push here. They should be very aware that Tworkaholics was in the spot that they were, as they came up in third party to a team that was shooting up the hill. You got to imagine the team that was up the hill is still there. So Pathfinder, that's so hard to say. Yeah, they'll pull off. They'll play a little bit safer here. As TBA has now decided to step up and join the fray. A few shots there from Proficiency. See Key just moving around, just making sure that nobody is going to sneak up behind them here.
Yeah, and TBA, I mean, again, good look for them actually just taking the one kill, claiming the one piece of KP before they continue with their game plan. They want to hold that western edge where we see exactly 0 teams right now. So, I mean, it's free, and they have a decent amount of playability into what is potentially this next zone and into the final zones. This could very well pull their way, in fact, though. Very likely looking like a potential harvester ending, or it could actually pull back the way of Tworkaholics. So again, without that ring information, it is a little difficult, and Echoes Boys without a member is also looking a little bit more difficult. A little worse for wear, but they have that crypto to recover that banner, and they're probably going to stick that res as well.
Yeah, a little unfortunate there for Pubsky, as may have been playing the role of scout just to see what was hanging around the hard cover of the building, and gets picked off. So we'll see if they can get him back up. Echoes Boys have a nice little spot for themselves now. We still have a number of teams working around on the edges in the outside here, outskirts. You can see actually Risen Rose down to just Trev Stacks, and he is being chased down right now by Proficiency at all from TBA, although it looks like they may have just decided to give up on that fight. So Trev Stacks, we'll see if we can get Risen Rose back on the right track here.
Yeah, we'll see. And very much the same situation for Team Diverge. Actually just lost another member. Might have already been ratting. So LTC Esports, they have to rack up the points. Unfortunately for them, it's not just do or die, it's do and score high. So they're on the engage. They're looking for these 3 KP. They are hunting for it. Crispy Bacon already down. 4-3 linear also going down. 1 member left here. Looks like they do get a temporary pickup on 1 member of Echoes Boys, but unfortunately not enough. LTC starting to claim those kill points that they're absolutely going to need to make up that 5-point difference.
And I absolutely love it from LTC as well. So many times we see teams that are either in the lead or holding on to a lead try to play a little bit more safe, a little bit more reserved and conservative in the last game, but LTC opting instead to take the fight to these teams, do what got them here in the first place, and it is so far yielding them a few more kill points in the bag. Meanwhile, Bad Boys still sitting on 1 kill. They've got a center circle position, and they are just going to hold on to that for the time being. It looks like no fights coming to them just yet, but also nothing for them to push into as we get a little bit of an overhead view here.
Yeah, and again, every point counts here, not just for the top 2 teams that we know are sort of vying for that win here in the finals. Every point matters because every single player that's in this lobby is going to get a significant amount of points that'll count towards their overall total for the challenger circuit. So the higher that you place today, the more points you're going to rack up, and every single player will feel a little bit better as they progress through the weeks. Every single challenger circuit does count. Every single game counts here, and right now, Bad Boys certainly has to make theirs count for more than one reason. They are honestly playing a game plan that I think is a little bit more conservative, but they know they need that win. They know that they need it for, or they cannot give that up right now.
Only 5 points ahead as they came into this, and they have to be watching that kill feed and knowing that LTC is doing work right now here. As we see TSS holding the line. Messiah gonna have to pull back here, rejoin the rest of the squad. Blue Flavor's a little bit on HP as well. TSS just holding the line, just trying to make sure they have info on anything that is happening around them here. There's a few more shots. Will protect their spot for the time being.
They're holding the line for now. They don't have anything like a Watson to make this happen, so it's just going to be their raw building, holding ability with the characters that they do have. Cheeky little Q here from that Horizon. It does block off that door, and that's actually going to be TD, who looked pretty much in shambles up on the northern edge, now has recovered, all of their teammates and is required to move over to the eastern side after getting pushed off. So I don't know how many points TD still has left to make up, but maybe they can scrap for a couple more or even play spoiler on one of these top 2 squads.
Well, yeah, it looks like TD was able to get everybody back up. Risen Rose also able to get everybody back up, but they are in fights on the south side here. LTC, meanwhile, they're going to decide that discretion is the better part of valor. Pull back a little bit too far, though, and there's Team Diverge as they pull up immediately at the worst possible time here. Flush coming through. Sleepy Panda has the gun ready to go. Shots coming through. Oh no, LTC. They get snuck up on behind from Diverge.
And now Bad Boys is actually going to capitalize on this. They saw the scoreboard. They saw the kill feed, They know that these are kills just for them to claim. And look at the way that they're going to hold this edge as well. If they can find this extra KP, they have a decent position to hold up and walk out on this edge. They're going to claim that now, finishing off Diverge. TSS going down as well. It was actually TSS that took out the rest of Team Diverge, and Bad Boys can't get too restless here. They still have to rack up a couple more points, but I believe with that elimination of LTC, they are no longer in contention from stealing out that first place.
Yeah, LTC, they went hunting. They knew what they had to get done. They got 6 kills, which puts them, they managed to catch up, but unfortunately for them, Bad Boys, 5 kills now. They've basically cemented themselves in the lead. No Name, who was in 3rd, is also out. So this is all just academic from here. We'll see if Bad Boys can collect some more points here to finish out the day, just to put a little bit of an exclamation point on what has been a fantastic performance for them.
Yeah, absolutely stellar performance. Again, Funk, a living highlight reel, as you said. Poro just doing so much work with every single, not just the RE485, really every single weapon you put in the hands of Funk, making it look illegal. Still have a little bit more game to play, and another squad that has the rest of this game to play and make up some more very much needed points is Black Hand, who, again, if they succeed on World's Edge, they can make up ground. They can get extra points in this Challenger circuit, which do matter. It does come up. But, of course, just for their own sake as well, just for feeling good about their performance today, they started off with a very rocky Storm Point. So for them to put a nice bow on their last World's Edge game and move up the standings, I think that'd be huge for their mental as well.
Would be absolutely lovely, although it's also... well, a little bit of a kick in the nuts whenever you see yourself getting 2nd place in week 1, and now you're set maybe with a good performance here. Find yourself in the top 5 once again, top 3 maybe even, if with a good enough performance here. So Black Hand, again, great day so far here today, but just not quite good enough.
And keep in mind that, like, Black Hand's roster, for all intents and purposes, like, that is not the Black Hand that we saw in the preseason qualifiers. Not exactly for the best of reasons, of course, but regardless, it's a team that still might be finding their stride. They're good players. They just a little bit of, like we've said, that the studying up, that little bit of knowledge that they need to really break through on Storm Point and have some huge performances. No, Bad Boys is just taking what's rightfully theirs at this point, I guess.
Yeah, I think
I really
Boys
know
is
padding
feeling
those stats.
Yeah, just doing a little ADR farming as we're all completely jacked out of our minds now, and just doing a big, just controlling the north side essentially here, as just waiting to see somebody to reveal themselves here. But everything going Bad Boys' way here. 6 kills so far. They're feeling great. Black Hand, as you said, more work left to do as they try to add to their total here. No kills on the board for them just yet, but that might change here shortly as they've now got somebody pinned up against the wall.
Yeah, they managed to take this spot, which is cheeky. It looks a little bit dangerous, and it certainly can be when you have a Horizon ult with Arcstars to pair with it, and no Watson. This is the problem. No Watson might not be living for the rest of this game. They actually Arcstar just to cover themselves a touch longer, and they might get another full reset. Poro against all odds. They just keep finding these moments to heal.
They're managing to make it work with very little. And as you said, full reset here for Black Hand, and now here comes the push. They know to expect somebody. First shots come through, and they will land here as the push coming through from Voltic. Yazdo slowly making their way through here. They're being very methodical about how they do this. They don't want to take the risk of just losing somebody and then getting immediately third-partied. So, well, big shots coming through there from Griff as he's going to find another one. There it is. Knock comes through. Can he get the second? Sure he can. Black Hand picking up 3.
Man, that Griffin wingman is just insane. Chadamus Prime is eliminated in the process. Cabbage also going outside of the top 5, and I believe Bad Boys just continues to farm up damage, continues to pick up kills. They're actually pressuring this squad over on the top right. I believe that might have been the last members of Vengeance, and they do lose Funk in that exchange. They have the beacon, or rather the tag to stick in a beacon, but no beacon in sight. And if they don't have a mobile res beacon, it's going to be a Bad Boys duo that's going to play out the rest of this top 5, though. Of course, they're already kind of kicking back, might have their legs on the desk as we speak, just waiting for this to play out.
Yeah, I feel like Bad Boys play with house money at this point right now. Black Hand just trying to collect a few more KP as Griff will go down. That Thermite doing a lot of damage. Voltic gonna try to see if they can finish off the last bit. No, Yasto, they'll at least get the godly daddies down, but can they get the res? Doesn't look like it. Yasto just gonna have to play this out as a solo.
And unfortunately, that will be all members of Black Hand eliminated. Yeah, sometimes the zone can be your best friend, actually wins them out the fight, and it can be your #1 enemy, as we saw literally like 5 seconds later. So, unfortunately for them, Black Hand does make up some ground. We'll see how that actually turns out in the overall leaderboard, but we still have somehow, some way, they've actually gotten all 3 members back up. So a full 3 stack here for Bad Boys. Buff Pathfinder holding up on this high ground with 3 members as well. And our final team, TBA, also a trio. So a total of 9 players left for this final ring, Poro.
Yeah, Bad Boys going for that exclamation point as they have beautiful positioning for this. They'll just sit here and wait and see if they can pick off whatever comes out. As well, actually, Buff Pathfinder, they've got the high ground here, so TBA has the low, so Bad Boy's going to have to make a decision here at some point. They might just be waiting for the zone to finish closing before they decide exactly what they want to do. But pretty easy to get a read on what's going on here if you're Bad Boys.
And crazy enough, even though Bath Pathfinder, of course, has that high ground, and they're going to use that very effectively. No, but truly, it's interesting to see that Buff Pathfinder has this high ground. It might not actually be the best spot, because if you notice the curvature of that building, it's actually the low ground team that gets to walk out a moment later unless Buff Pathfinder swings behind them. And there's actually a decent amount of cover for Bad Boys to work with, so all things considered, Bad Boys might be on their way to yet another dub today.
Well, we've seen how well Bad Boys handles these late game situations. We saw it in game #1 where they were the only duo along with 2 trios, and they still managed to pull out that victory. So we'll see how they decide to play this one. They've got hard cover to work with, and they are just waiting for anybody to peek here as Bloodhound knows exactly where everyone is here, and it's just a matter of time, the waiting game before TBA and BP, what I'm going to call them now because I'm tired of messing it up, have to finally make their move.
And now the dog has been popped. We'll see if they've got the dog in them right now. They have to outfight 2 teams in front of them, and I think very possibly Buff Pathfinder will just commit to the slide down and taking that 3v3 initiation with the likes of Bad Boys, but they've actually managed to wait it out for a second longer. Bursty has the RE45 this time. Buff Pathfinder actually down to just run now, and it won't be the case. They cannot clean it up, and in the meanwhile, TBA is cleaned up by Bad Boys, so just like that, a nice little bow, a nail in the coffin of the rest of their opponents. They clean it up. Bad Boys is your Game 6 champion and your Challenger Circuit number 2 finals champion, Dambro. Was that what we were looking for? I think so.
I'm a little bit surprised, if I'm being honest with you, that game happened the way.
Oh. Lost him.
The very last. Oh, hey, I'm back. Am I here?
Hey, yeah, you're here.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. So I was not what I was expecting at all. If I'm being quite frank with you, right? I was expecting that we were going to get to that end game, top maybe 5, maybe 4. It was going to come down to this LTC versus Bad Boys brawl, but little did we know, LTC goes down in like 14th, and then we just immediately see Bad Boys put the pedal to the metal as they just try and fly through the rest of the lobby, getting as many points as they can, knowing that they need those points, kind of just nice to have in your back pocket. So I'm a little bit surprised, just like you guys are, but either way, a fantastic map number 6 that we saw there. Was we kind of get ready to pull up the replay. Mello, talk me through some of that end game that was happening there, because it seemed like it was a little bit awkward and weird, but eventually got wrapped up.
Yeah, and I will say, just to clarify, I think that end game was exactly what I think we were looking for, where once we had one of those final squads that we were hoping to see perform today in that final game, we didn't see LTC there, but Bad Boys holding it down, showing why they are just one of the most talented teams in the field. That's why they have taken down this Challengers final. Challengers number 2 finals is just absolute raw team fighting ability, positioning, holding cover, patience. I mean, there was a long list of things I could write out, right, to show why Bad Boys is as good as they are. But Poro might have said it best. The highlight reel has been Funk. Funk has just been demolishing these lobbies.
Yeah, I think Funk has just been doing an insanely good job. And Poro, obviously, that map number 6, it was looking real good, real spicy. Talk to me about it.
Look, I gotta say, LTC should not feel bad about anything. I think they played this game exactly how they needed to. They were being aggressive. They were going out. They were trying to find kill points. They were trying to do everything they can. They weren't trying to just play it safe, trying to make it to late game and hope that Bad Boys screwed up. Like, they were taking their own destiny into their own hands. That being said, Bad Boys got the Bloodhound. Yes, in fact, they do got that dog in a Mellow Crit. Because look, it wasn't just Funk, right? It wasn't just any one member of the team. It was the fact that Bad Boys, look, we said it at the beginning of the game. There's so many times that you see that these teams that are in the lead, they get to that last game and they start to try to play a little bit more conservatively, right? They try to play not to lose instead of playing that same style that they've been playing all night to get them there. Bad Boys, it looked like they did not feel a single bit of pressure being in that top spot by only 5 points going to this last game. They just took that thing by the hairs and just ran it home. I love to see it. That was actually very impressive from Bad Boys.
Super clutch coming out from them, and Buff Pathfinder kind of making some moves here as well. I definitely love seeing that and seeing them there. And kind of as we look at some of these other teams, I mean, I'm looking at LTC yet again in 14th. We kind of talked about it. Team Diverge also was a team that we thought was going to be making some moves, but unfortunately also landing down there in that 13th spot. I mean, Mello, I don't know really what else to say around here. Bad Boys, they came out swinging here in this map number 6, and obviously they're bringing out home 21 points to add on, and well, that's exactly what they needed to take home that first place spot. As we look at the overall, 1 point shy of the 100 LTC and 81. Break this down for me, Mello.
Man, that's just sick. And like, you have to consider the fact that LTC was hot on their heels for them to be at this much of a deficit. That's all it takes. You need one bad game to really just have your score pacing fall behind incredibly quickly. Same exact thing with Blackhand. Blackhand didn't have a stellar game, and we see that separation. They improved significantly from their storm point over towards their World's Edge, but again, there's issues that plague that team. Something about their fight timing, something about the fact that they kind of have to get away with murder in a lot of cases. I feel like there's no real better way to put it. They take fights, they take a little bit longer. Their 3v3s aren't quite as crisp, even though the opening damage might talent look incredibly solid, and I think that's what's landing them in this position after those roster changes. So I think the potential is there, Dandra. Absolutely, there's potential there. I think that team has a lot of talent. I'm really excited to hopefully get to chat with them soon as well, to get a little bit of context on their journey. But shout out to all of the teams that are here, by the way. All of this top 20 performance, very well deserved. Congratulations to everyone.
Well, you see the scoreboard there. And what an absolute day it has been as we kind of get ready to wrap up your kind of guys here time on the broadcast. Let's just take a 30,000 foot kind of step back and look at the day overall. We started it with just some absolute bangers on Storm Point. We came over to World's Edge where it just got even better and the chaos just kind of ensued even more. I love the way you're saying the wheels just come off. Right? And some of the teams going wheels up, turning into a fighter jet and just flying through the map. As we kind of look back across the last 6 maps, Mello, give me kind of some of your just overall highlights of kind of what we were, excited to see. And maybe if you're going to kind of give some words of inspiration to some of these teams that are, kind of looking to still kind of move forward, what are they going to do?
Hey, I think it could be really easily disappointing in a single 6-game set. So looking at the bigger picture, I think is really critical. I think there's a lot to learn in a lot of these lobbies. Honestly, some of those games look really competitive. Some of those end game zones that were able to hold a lot of people, you saw that capacity maxed out. And I think that speaks to the caliber of player, but also, again, I said it with Blackhand, but I'll say it with a lot of these teams. There's a lot of potential. There's also squads that didn't make this top 20 that I also think have a lot of potential. So it comes down on the week to week, right? You have to perform on that week. So everything that you see here, I think, can be learned from. So all of these teams, they have a lot to be proud of, but there's also a lot of work to do. This game is not easy to master, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of studying to really be able to perform. So once you got the mechanics down, I think it really does come down to a lot of these teams making very small adjustments, whether it be timing, whether it be rotations, whether it be even selection of POI. Maybe you need a breath of fresh air, a different outlook on your map pool to see how you can perform that bit better. But today, it was all bad, boys.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mello. Poro, give me your final words of the day before we get ready to bring over our friends Dia and Twiggy.
Well, first and foremost, obviously, congratulations once again to Bad Boys. Just clinical, joy to watch. Fantastic day for them. LTC also provided a lot of excitement there. I brought it all the way to the final game. Also awesome to watch. I think Mello hit the nail on the head with Blackhand. Every week this team gets more reps and more practice together as a squad. They're going to continue to get better. Obviously, Storm Point, a little bit of a weak spot for them right now, but more reps, they're going to start turning that around. So I expect to see Blackhand again in the coming weeks up there once again fighting for that first place spot. Looking a little bit further down, No Name, obviously fantastic day for them as well. Shoreline Mafia, I think, played way better than what their position indicates, so I'm excited to see that squad again. And then TBA, Echoes Boys, all these teams that had just 1 or 2 games where it was 0 or 1 points, like that's pretty easy to kind of go back and fix, right? Like you can tell what happened there and just kind of focus on those low point games going forward, and just trying to remove those, and then you'll find yourself climbing up there. So I think every team in the lobby, it seemed, had moments that they can look at and be proud of, and then obviously every team in the lobby, even Bad Boys, has moments that could go back and say, look, we can improve upon that just to get a little bit better. So excited to see what the coming weeks have to offer, but tonight was a lot of fun.
I couldn't agree more. It was an absolute blast. And thank you to both of you for being here and helping break down all the games, helping me, and having some casting for all of the teams. So we'll see you later as we get ready to bring on Dia and Twiggy to also help break down that last and final game and prep for maybe an interview that I'm being told.
Ooh.
So thank you. Thank you so much to both of you.
We got that dog in him.
Right.
All right.
Okay. I'm good.
I don't know what I just came into, but okay. Welcome back, guys. Listen, I know you had a break, but we gotta get serious for a minute, okay? We're trying to wrap this one up. All right. Twiggy, since you want to perform some theatrics for us, why don't you give me a theatrical dance breakdown of that map number 6, because it was quite a dance of death indeed.
It was one hell of a dance of death. I think, despite the fact that it was technically over very quickly in terms of points, it was a great kind of attempt at a way back. LTC, they had a specific goal in mind, as Poro said quite aptly. They needed to do something special, and they needed to take something into their own hands, and they attempted to do that. And to be fair to them, that had worked out really well for them at the start of the day. Obviously, first and third game, they won both of those. Or sorry, no, second game they won. Can't remember about the second, whatever. Anyway, they've done it really well so far. I think first and third was Bad Boys. But yeah, no, LTC won games 2 and 5, and they have shown that they can do that. They can just run through teams and they can get stuff done, and they can take matters into their own hands. It just didn't work out this time. That's the risk you run when you try and play aggressively, is that sometimes you are just going to get knocked out very quickly. It didn't quite work out for them this time. It's unfortunate, but it was nice to see them really go for it rather than just sit around and try and let Bad Boys come to them.
And as we kind of see these top 10 fraggers, Dia, any surprises here? I mean, this kind of looks like business as usual. This looks like a lot of the teams that and players that we saw making moves on the maps.
It does. I'm still surprised, and I'm looking forward to their performance next week by LTC and the way that they have shot up the standings. The fact that all 3 of them are in our top 10 members who fragged out is wild to me, because LTC, yes, while fragging out immensely, didn't show us that before. With the damage that we now get, I'm also just taking a look. There we go. I was wondering who was the difference here. I expected actually Funk to be on top, but Rambro with 100 extra damage doesn't actually change the gap by that much, but still, that's their average across all these games. That's 7 health bars if everyone's got 200 health.
That's some quick maths, Dia, that I was not prepared for. But yeah, I mean, obviously you're seeing kind of where it comes through, and this should kind of tell us the story, right? I mean, LTC, obviously they were doing very well, and they have the damage to show it. But the macro gameplay, I think, from Bad Boys is what was really helped them lock it down. But we actually do have an interview with our winner. So before we head on over there, Twiggy, give me your final thoughts. Give me your kind of closing remarks, because it's been an awesome having you on the broadcast here today.
Well, it's been a lovely day. First off, it's been brilliant being here, and it's a great lobby. Honestly, our 20 teams put in such great performances that, no game was without its drama, and especially those first 3 games were absolutely insane to watch. Like, the start of the day was just absolutely wild, and that is what I want to see out of Apex. It's not just teams running into the last zone and then just a massive cluster word at the end of the game just to, finish things out. I like seeing a good bit of drama over the course of the whole game. So it's been lovely to see all these teams doing it. And I'm sure we'll see that in the coming weeks as well. So thank you for having me on. I am going to go to sleep now. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Twiggy. Dia and I, we actually will be on board with an interview with Yubbin from, obviously, that winning team of Bad Boys. We have some great questions, and I believe might be here. And there, Yubbin, are you there with us?
Yes, hello.
Hello. Welcome on. And first off, congratulations, number 1, for making it onto those Pro League qualifiers. It's got to feel pretty good for you and the squad to kind of solidify your seed in that event.
Yeah, it was good, but I honestly didn't know what we were playing for, to be honest. I don't know if we played more after we won or we just stopped playing.
Okay,
but yeah, we felt good. We felt really good today.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously showed. You guys were kind of a little bit dominant. One of the things I wanted to ask you was kind of, we see a lot of teams between the 2 map sets, right? Between Storepoint and World's Edge. Some teams, they just really favor one, and that's where they get all their points. Other teams favor another one. You guys were just consistent across both maps. What was kind of the secret sauce there? Is that you guys just both comfortable on Stormpoint and World's Edge?
Our Stormpoint during the quals, it was kind of rough. So we switched it was Valk. We played Valk, Bang, Bloodhound for Stormpoint, but we would switch to Horizon on World's Edge. But then during our quals, our Stormpoint with Valk was pretty bad. We weren't really utilizing her ulti, so We were like, what if we just switch to like Horizon and start killing everybody? So we just did that.
That's such a great strategy. And obviously it worked out pretty well. I know Dia wants to kind of maybe talk about that a little bit more, but I'll let Dia ask his questions because he probably has the way more interesting ones than I do.
No. Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, honor to meet you. Having seen you perform in Apex for so long, I actually wanted to know, the Bad Boys team, that name has followed you around since even Pro League and Quals of last year, but you are the remaining member of the Bad Boys roster.
Yeah.
What made you pick that name, and what do you look for in the teammates that you're surrounding yourself to call yourself the Bad Boys?
Well, that team, I didn't come up with the name. It was just when I was with my old teammates, Force and Promo. We were just thinking of a name, and then they're like the boomer side, so I didn't know Bad Boys. Like, I didn't watch the movie or anything.
Yeah.
But they were just like, let's just call ourselves like the Bad Boys, and we're like, all right, let's do it. And then we all split, but then I just stayed on Bad Boys, like, cause I like the name, and like
it is
kinda,
a good name.
yeah, and kind of like cemented that team kind of during Pro League, like when I clutched and stuff. So it was pretty. I like the name a lot.
Yeah, I like that you've taken it around with you, but since Pro League, I mean, we've seen you guys try and move into Pro League this split, and of course, I'm wishing you the best of luck as we move towards Pro League quals, but I can't help but look back at the preseason quals and notice that it was 20th, 14th, followed by not making the first Challenger circuit here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know a little bit about what the big difference was for you guys coming into today, where you had a 50% win rate in a battle royale.
The Pro League quals, I think we were playing with Oxy, and that team, we had good chem. It was like vibes were good, but we missed two of the quals. We missed the second one and the last one.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to say this. When after the fourth one, when we missed the fourth one, and then Oxy left to join a Pro League team, and he felt like we weren't really committed, like all together as like me, Ram, and Oxy. We just felt like we weren't really committed to stay as a team. So he found an opportunity, and then he went. And then Ram and I were finding a third. And then originally Oxy was gonna play with Funk, but then Oxy left to join a Pro League, and then yeah, we asked Funk, and then Funk was down, so we just ran with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that you trusted Funk a lot. I was noticing it in Game 3 of Stormpoint. Obviously, RE45, but sending him down alone, it was, it's still a vote of trust, throwing somebody into a 1v3. My last question does touch back on that Pro League as well, because you guys are, I assume, heading back there. You've made it all the way to the Pro League quals, and given your performance today, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Pro League. But what do you think is the gap between where the squad is now, clearly powerful in Challenger Circuit, and where you need to be or want to be for Pro League?
I feel like there's a lot of leeway in Challenger, like with these teams like not being really experienced, and like we don't know. One thing about Challenger is we don't know all the teams because it's all brand new. Like, every week it could be different teams that make it to the finals. So like we don't know what all these teams land and what they do, like what comps they play. But then for Pro League, you kind of have like an idea of where everyone lands and where all the established teams go. So for Pro League, well, we need to first like find a spot, our POI, because we've been landing at like trials and checkpoint. So for Pro League, we gotta find a spot, and I think we're still gonna play the same way, just more slow and like more tactical, I guess, going into Pro League.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the squads are going to level up, that consistency is going to level up, and I can only assume that you guys will as well to match the environment, shall we say, that, as you know, is quite different. That's all for my questions, and I want to reiterate again, honored to meet you after all this time.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us for this interview, and yet again, congratulations for making it into those Pro League qualifiers. We'll let you go now so that we can go celebrate and hang out with your squad and probably do a little bit of VOD review if I had to imagine as well. So, hey, thank you and congratulations yet again. We'll bring it back on out to Dia and I to go ahead and close this up. But what a fantastic kind of interview to be able to kind of talk to him and hear sort of some of that, kind of a thought process. And I love the way he talked about that legend change, right? Kind of you and I were talking about it off screen of saying, hey, be staying with that same comp between maps. Kind of if it's not broke, why bother trying to fix it? Why bother swapping it up? And you're hearing it from the horse's mouth himself that obviously they found a lot of success with it.
Yeah, it's clear that especially that notable thing that he said about, well, we can just, especially in these lobbies, go more aggressive is a nice recognition of exactly what they need to do. And it gives me a lot of hope for Bad Boys when they do end up entering Pro League again. Because as we illustrated in the interview, Yuban's been there before and now has identified the way that the game shifts in between these two styles. I'm hoping, of course, that they'll be able to integrate that into Pro League success, but already it makes me very excited to know that they're comfortable enough with their own game to play off what the rest of the lobby is doing.
Yeah, I really look forward to them in those Pro League qualifiers. But if you're sitting here and you're watching and you want to say, hey, how do I get on the action? How do I get involved with, of course, the Challenger Circuit number 3? Well, head on over to Battlefy and learn more. That's going to be on December 9th. So if you have you and a squad and you're ready to fry out, or you're one of these squads that have been participating in the last couple weeks, go check it out. Go learn how you can get involved. With that being said, that's all we have for you as part of the Apex Legends Global Series Challengers number 2 finals. Dia, any kind of closing remarks or words to close us out here?
No, it's been a great time, and thank you so much to everyone who made it possible, from our production to you, Dandro, because you have been a wonderful host.
Hey, well, thank you. That means a lot. I'm glad the Apex community has welcomed in. It's been awesome being able to work with all of you. So until next time, I'm Dandro, and this has been the Apex Legends Global Series Challengers number 2 finals.